anybody's. This might be a first. We might be the first people to go ever live on the internet. Are you sure? When was the first live stream on the internet? Like
first live stream on the internet was it was pornography in probably like 1996.
Really?
Yeah, the moment somebody had the ability to stream video on the internet, there was a porn site for it.
I mean, I believe you.
Probably.
But
I'm going to take your word for it.
I'm
using
the history of internet streaming.
First internet video stream.
Or it could have been just
here we go. Timeline of
rebroadcast.
online video.
Timeline
Wikipedia
of online video.
to the rescue.
Wikipedia.com.
1974, development of practical video coding standards.
It was Sesame Street. I'm just kidding.
Full timeline.
Hello. And Tan May, friend of the show, Tan May says, hello, Jeff. Somebody noticed that Jeff is here with us. Hi, Jeff.
Hello, Jeff.
Hello.
We like to think of Jeff as motion smoothing Jeff here.
Yeah. Yeah.
You might know him as Craft Computing Jeff.
Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah,
I have other titles at PCWorld.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay,
so 1995.
Oh, WWF.
1995 in September, ESPN Sports Zone streams a live radio broadcast of a baseball game between the Seattle Mariners and the New York Yankees. Video is like audio is like video without pictures.
No, I know, but I mean like not taking a broadcast and restreaming it onto the internet.
You're talking about something original.
Yeah.
Original content.
Like original content, not a restream.
Yeah, a first broadcast live stream.
Yeah.
So the first broadcast live stream was in 1993 on May 22nd. Wax, or the Discovery of Television Among the Bees, which was originally released in 1991, was streamed on the internet. Due to bandwidth limitations, it is broadcast at 2 frames a second rather than the standard 24 frames a second.
That sounds about right for the bandwidth of the day.
Yeah, you should, Alex, just go in and switch our frame rate
2.
down to 2 frames a second. God, what would that look like?
It would look like a slideshow.
Like this, like... Yeah, was that a good... Except for some reason we didn't have sound.
Yeah, I don't know. I can't do sound. It was watched by a number of people at computer laboratories.
Watched by a number of people. It was watched by a number of people. Like at least some number of people watched
3
it.
to 5.
Over 1 is some number. Yeah, hello.
Hi.
Hello, we're here on the internet. Okay, so we might not be the first live stream on the internet.
It was early.
But we are the best live stream on the internet.
Look,
today will be the pinnacle.
Well, that's debatable.
It will be the pinnacle of live streaming on the internet. Everything after this.
Have you seen that hummingbird live stream where they show they have the camera pointed at the hummingbird nest and you see the little tiny baby hummingbirds?
Is this
it's like an animal cam,
like an IRL kind of thing,
they shoot
like it's always on.
Well, I mean, when there's a hummingbird nest, it's always on.
When there's a hummingbird nest.
Do you know how small
were you streaming out
nests
your
are very small?
bird
Yeah,
nest
we had
thing?
a house finch. We had house finches 2 springs ago, I think, on the front porch.
Yeah, I remember
which was
that.
a little distracting for like going in and out of the house, since it's the main way we go in and out of the house.
Yeah,
and the house finches were fairly upset every time we opened the front door.
How could you do that to them?
Well, I mean, they're the ones who chose. We went on vacation for 5 days, and we came back. They'd built a nest there, and then by that point, you're not allowed to disrupt the nest. And also, I like birds, so we wouldn't have disrupted the nest anyway.
I do know there's a number of YouTubers with animal live streams. LGR Clint over there at Lazy Game has a bird live stream, and Pirate Software does the ferret live stream.
Is it his ferret?
You know, you can't have ferrets in California. It's against the law.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, because they're nasty.
No, they're fine.
Nasty.
They kind of smell. They're a little musky.
I've never had a ferret. Have you had a ferret, Jeff?
I have not had a ferret. I've had family with ferrets.
Yeah,
I saw a weasel one time at Muir Woods.
Wow, that's rude.
I've never seen a weasel in the wild before.
You shouldn't say that about Willis. He's not here.
Look, I told you. We talked about this on Thursday. Willis 2.0 doesn't have feelings about stuff like that. I'm just saying. New favorite character here.
We got one, Dr. Ian Cutchers from Tech Potato. He's still awake. I don't know what time it is in the UK, but
that's only it's only like 6 p.m. for him. It's only +7 from us. So
only +7. Oh, because they haven't switched over with the time.
Yeah, they don't do daylight savings time because
because they're smart idiots. Man, daylight savings. I hate it.
know.
Oh, he says it's 7 p.m. Yeah,
the one thing Arizona got right.
Yeah.
Look, I don't want any pet that I have to express anal glands on too often.
We're going back to that.
Well, it's people were talking about ferrets in the chat. I'm just saying.
Yeah. Well, I something else I'm going to say.
Yeah.
Hard pivot. I continue to get comments of people not liking my fidgeting.
Yeah.
And my fidgeting, if you don't know, usually comes out to be like this. Like I'm a fidgeter, and I'm always adjusting this, not because I need to. Like it's in place, people.
Yeah.
It's just I'm fidgeting. This is what I do. Yeah.
Do you want me to? I have a shock collar I can bring in next week that every time you fidget, I can just zap you.
That'd be good. Actually, yeah.
That'd be amazing.
Because I realize that at my desk at home, I have like within arm's reach like at least 4 different kinds of fidget items. I guess I'm a big fidgeter. So today I brought in a C47. This would be my
clothespin.
No, this is a C47.
That's a C47 is an airplane. That's a clothespin.
No, this is a C47.
Why is
you
it
don't
a
know
C47?
what this is? Yeah, so
looks like a clothespin to me.
In film lingo, they call it. You went to film school, yeah? Why, Alex? Why is this called the C47?
So you can mess with young kids on the set and tell them to go get you a bag of C47s, so they don't know what it is.
And they're like, "What the hell?" And
it's
also
like the left-handed spanner.
Yeah,
it's the blinker fluid.
Yeah,
and also it's a good way to write off a bunch of maybe equipment that you can't explain why you needed to write off. Be like, oh, it's just a bunch of C47s, because the accounting people, they don't know what a C47 is.
Yeah, and the Hollywood C47 is probably $1,000 a bag.
Exactly.
It's like when machinists ask you for cooling fluid, it's always bunk. Then nobody needs that.
Cooling fluid.
Yeah. You just put that on there. They're like, oh, you got to put some cooling fluid on this, but that's just a made up thing. You can just grind the metal on metal; it works fine.
Yeah. So luckily, this doesn't make too much sound unless I put it right up in front of the microphone.
That was really loud.
Yeah. Over here, it doesn't make too much sound, but yeah, this is a good fidgeting item. It's got good pressure. I can't do anything else with it other than this, but I can also inflict some sort of pain on myself. So maybe during the intro, I just have this. Yeah.
I'm like a pen clicker. I love clicking pens in and out. Or if you get me like a USB key that'll spin, I got this guy on my desk right here. So the multi,
You know who has a good one?
I love that one. I have that.
The USB and USB-C. Yeah, it's a really good.
Yo dog, I heard you like USB.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
Patriot showed me their new one.
I
need to reach out to them to have them send it to me, because it had a really good click.
So we got.
I saw it at CES. Really good click.
We got for my daughter for Easter, put in eggs, some of those 3D printed fidgets that like some guy on Etsy's making.
A 3D printed fidget?
It's a 3D printed clicky fidget.
3D printed.
They have the best click I've ever heard. I'll see if I'll see if she'll let me borrow one.
Have you seen the 3D printed music boxes?
Yeah.
Is this it?
Yeah. Well, you should explain it.
Yeah. So people have started making 3D music boxes, which has a slider on the top and hits some pins. They've got like a Mario Brothers theme where you can slide the slider on the top and it'll play Mario Brothers, like a marimba. It's pretty great.
Oh, I like these clicky cactus. I've seen these before too. They're like little cactus, the 3D printed, and you just.
Yeah. They have a good tap.
I got Willis one, but I don't think he's much of a fidgeter. It should be. Yeah, I see it on the desk right there. It's that Yakult. No, in front of the screen.
We did
it's the little bottle, the white bottle. No, on the other side. No, you should be able to see it from sitting down to your left.
Ian Cutler says the top of the LTT precision driver.
Oh yeah, the where it pops in and out.
I haven't gotten that one. Yeah.
Oh really? Because they anodized mine green and it's engraved with Craft Computing. So.
Well, they like you, I guess.
They do.
So.
The
Oh yeah, so I got this. So Willis is a big fan of Yakult, and
what's Yakult?
You don't know what he called? You don't recognize this?
No.
Do you recognize this?
I do not.
It's a little bottle of like a yogurt.
A fiber drink?
No, it's like a probiotic kind of drink.
Oh yeah.
Popular in Asian communities.
I'm antibiotic.
Yeah, there you go. You just down an antibiotic every day.
That's me
that's
every
good
morning.
For you.
Just clean it out.
So yeah, this is 3D printed. Yes, it looks like it. But it has a switch in it, so then you can just tap the switch. I like a clicky switch, so this doesn't do much for me.
We had a guest one time on the podcast who played with a key tester, like in a way that like the Zoom call was filtering out, but his local audio recording picked up every single click.
Oh no!
And I was just like, it was so much editing. I was like, we had to add it. You know, when you have somebody on a guest on a podcast, you have a list of notes that you add over time. Here's how the thing works.
Like tell them what to do and not do.
Wear headphones. Always a good tip.
Oh,
yeah. Well. Don't click your keyboard. If you have a clicky keyboard, just don't
or mute your
don't
mic.
Idly click your mouse. Some people just do that constantly. Just wear.
I can't stand
switches.
that.
Oh,
can't stand that.
My loudest fidget item that I have on my desk right now is one of those cubes that are infinite.
Cube. Oh yeah, those are good.
Oh yeah,
I love those, but it's metal.
Infinity
it's very,
cube. Oh, that's
it's
very
loud.
Yeah.
It's very loud, but really
I need to get a metal one of those.
I like a Neato.
Neato? Needouugh?
Maybe? I don't know.
Wait, say that again?
Needou. Yeah, there you go. DOH. It's like Play-Doh, I guess. They're like balls filled with non-Newtonian fluids.
Oh, we talked to Balls was on his podcast. We talked about balls on his podcast.
I don't want to know,
so, yeah.
but like they're very squeezy and quite fun.
Yeah,
they get a little tacky over time.
Yeah,
though.
I can't. You're techie.
I also like what's the fidget dough? It's like putty. It's like they sell it at Target. There's a big stand at Target full of like different kinds of putty with glitter and like little chunks and
Nutty
stuff
putty?
like
Silly putty?
No.
It's
When I was a kid, I always used Nutty Putty because you could like press it onto like a newspaper
you
and
stole
peel
the
it
comics.
off. Yeah,
You're pirating
Yeah,
comics.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
You take that putty, then you'd sell it to another kid for a dime. And
It's called Nutty Putty, right?
Yeah.
Or is that no?
I think it was silly putty.
Silly putty is what it was called.
But it came in.
Crazy.
It came in like a
Aaron's-
nutshell.
Oh, that's what it was. Yeah, original silly putty. Yeah.
Yeah.
Do kids
Yeah.
even know what this
It
is
looked like an
anymore?
egg. Kids don't
Probably
know.
not.
Kids-
They're into slime these days.
Dude.
Look, kids are all about non-Newtonian fluids. Kids are wild for non-Newtonian fluids, but
Kids
Kids are
is fact.
stupid.
silly putty is last millennium technology.
Kids
like
are
the slime current. So Crazy Aaron's thinking putty. I feel like Crazy Aaron is maybe a little bit ableist, but the thinking putty, there's a bazillion brands of it. And they have like a bazillion different varieties, and they have like different textures. They have some that are transparent. They have some that smell. They have ones that have like little chunks of stuff in them.
See, the problem I have with things like that
Yeah.
is that I just want to put it in my mouth.
Oh, look, I can't. There's nothing I can do for that. Okay.
So I think that's maybe why I stay away from those kind of things.
They also all kind of look like poos on the. On
Which
their
is why I want
page.
to put it in my mouth.
I mean, okay.
Yeah, we should get this podcast
Yeah,
rolling.
this is a great time to
I can
start.
tell why you married a teacher, Adam.
Yeah.
Exactly. Don't you? Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Adam, drop it.
We're here
Drop
to talk
it,
about.
Adam.
We got a GPU in front of us. We're going to talk about that, and then we're going to talk rumors. So Brad.
Where's Brad? He loves rumors.
Yeah, he loves rumors. No, actually, unfortunately, Brad's sick, so he's out.
Yeah.
Elena.
I'm Brad.
There you go. Elena just got back from vacation, but she's out. Mike Kreider is can't join us either. So
Yeah.
I'd to go through my Rolodex and look for like at least the fifth string Jeff that I know, and we got
Yeah.
Jeff. So thank
Yeah.
you. I'm just kidding. Actually, how many Jeffs do I know? That's a
Well,
good question.
I know a lot. I mean,
well, I know a Jeff, but it's spelled
That's not a real Jeff.
GOEFF.
he's compensating.
Yeah,
That's what
yeah.
that is.
Wow.
Yeah,
Shade.
he might be over there right now, so I got to be quiet. He'll come in and throw something on my head. Yeah, no, thank you for coming on in a pinch.
No
I
problem.
appreciate
Thanks
it.
for having me.
Also, before we start, I will say we're continuing contract negotiations for our music service, so we will once again be using the Creative Commons No BS podcast intro music.
You can get it
but it's
yourself
also
at
really good.
podcastfantastic.com.
What was that link?
Podcastfantastic.com.
Thank you to Jeremy Williams.
Yes, shout out to Jeremy Williams.
Yeah, amazing
Original
music person.
He did all the music for the old school future podcast, the PC Gamer podcast, Max PC.
I never listened to the PC Gamer podcast.
I don't know if he did. I don't think he did. I want to say that OXM Radio had their own thing that he didn't do, but I think he also did Game Theory, which was Colin Campbell and Gary Whitta's thing for a long time. It's a good show.
I remember that. Yep.
Yeah, it was a games business kind of podcast.
Yeah. All right. So let's see, Alex. How you doing over there?
We're ready to rock around here.
All right. Let's see. Man, I haven't pre-filled in the intro since episode 342. 11111. Nice. I like it. So I'm gonna wing it once again.
Whoa, here we go.
Yeah.
Just making it up.
Then
do I have to read anything this week, or
nope.
we're still clear?
Nope,
okay,
we're good. Okay, you ready?
What up, chat?
Yeah, here we go. In this episode of The Full Nerd, we talk about the 5060 Ti. I am so angry about it. And rumors. Don't tell anyone. Oh, yeah. And welcome, everybody, to episode, 344
Nailed
of the
it.
Full Nerd Podcast, PCWorld's premier podcast about PC building news. There we go. That's what I'm going to say. I am your fill-in host, Adam Patrick Murray, and we are streaming live here on YouTube. If you didn't know, we also have an audio version that you can get over on fine RSS readers like Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube Music, Pocket Cast, Deezer.
Overcast. That's a Mac one.
Are we on that? I don't know. I can't.
Yeah, we're on that.
Okay, we're on it. Yeah, if you want to go over there.
Downcast? Is Downcast still a thing?
No, I don't know.
I think Downcast got... Anyway.
Okay.
It's kind of like me. I'm on just about every platform, too. I couldn't list all of them that I'm broadcast on.
Well, yeah. I mean, I'd usually save this
Spotify?
for the end, but it's something I want to bring up at the beginning, just to remind people, hey, if you want to listen to us on the go, right in your ear hole, then
without
then do
using
that.
your bandwidth for video.
Yeah, there you go. Stupid video. Anyway, speaking of stupid video, I have on the line here Jeff from Craft Computing. Hi, Jeff.
Hello. Episode 344. That's kind of quaint. I didn't realize you guys were so far behind me as far as episode count.
Wow.
But thank you for having me on.
In. Yeah, motion smoothing Jeff is what we like to call him.
Jeff back on the ship back, just knives out.
Yeah, knives out. And
coming in hot.
To my left here, we have one Will Smith.
I am learning some hot stuff from the chat about how this Oblivion remaster that they surprise dropped this morning works.
I think I'm going to save it for the plane ride for my Steam Deck. So,
maybe
I'm trying not to mess with it. Yeah, because I think that'll probably be a good.
Is it really running inside UE5?
It from what I understand, it is the Oblivion engine rendered in UE5, and they've redone every animation, they've hand redone every texture asset, remodeled everything. They've added new voice actors to it, so it's not the same 4 voice actors for every single character in the game.
Yeah,
and it's not AI; it's actually recorded.
But not Patrick Stewart. They didn't replace Patrick Stewart, right?
No, Patrick Stewart's still in it.
He's only in there for like 6 minutes,
which is
a
fine.
real rip.
That's all. Right. That's all he needs.
But spoilers.
But okay, so did they build like a translation engine for all the old stuff from, because that was a renderware game, right? Back in the day.
Yeah.
I wonder if they rewrote all the back end stuff to do all the quest logic and all that, like, because there's an incredible amount of stuff there. And if they did, that means we could be looking at Fallout 3 and Fallout New Vegas remasters too, which is some hot biz.
No, let's not get our hopes up about New Vegas. I will get my hopes up for one Alex Estevez running the verticals and horizontals. Hello, Alex.
What's cracking, y'all?
Have you ever played Oblivion?
I haven't, no, but now that there's a remaster, maybe I should.
Did you ever play Skyrim?
A little bit, yeah.
Okay.
I mean, Skyrim they've released 1,000 times. Oblivion was kind of in the trapped on the Xbox 360 for a long
Oblivion.
time.
Yeah.
Oblivion's a great game.
In those early days of the 360, when you didn't have too many games, Oblivion was definitely like. Well, I sunk a lot of time.
A friend of the show, Jeff Grossman, was talking about it this morning on Blue Sky. But he for him, he was like, Oblivion was one of those games that made you kind of stand up and take notice about what the next gen consoles could do. It was like one of the early ones for the 360 era. And I was like, that and Dead Rising were the two for me that I was like, oh, this is a real thing. But also, like, working in an office full of computer nerds who played games, everybody came in the morning when Oblivion was out and talked about the weird stuff that they'd done in that video game the night before. Because like there was so much weird, like Josh Norm was just going around collecting stuff and filling his houses with it.
Oh, he was the cheese wheel guy.
He wasn't the cheese wheel guy. He was one of those guys for sure. And like the rest of us were off doing dark business with the Dark Brotherhood. And anyway.
Well, you know what was probably in that game that I need. I heard something over on Brad and Will Made a Tech Pod this weekend.
Yeah.
And I need to address it because I need...
That's at techpod.content.town.
Yeah, I need to...
While we're plugging stuff.
Thank you. I need to answer this.
Yeah.
And I'm going to cuss. Warning.
Whoa.
Uh-oh.
You mentioned a brick shithouse.
Yeah, brick shithouse.
What is a brick shithouse?
It's an outhouse made of brick instead of wood.
Wait,
Pretty hard to knock down.
Why would you want to make your outhouse out of bricks?
Do you want to be sitting in an outhouse and have it blow down around you? Like, what if the big bad wolf is after you?
Wait, this is a thing?
Yeah.
Built like a brick shithouse.
Yeah.
That's why, because you don't want it to fall
overbuilt.
over.
The idea is it's overbuilt.
It's overbuilt because you don't need to make your shithouse.
It's a place you go to poop. It can be made of cardboard for all I care. Like you go to a concert, it's made of plastic.
I don't think I've ever seen an outhouse that wasn't wood. So how common are these overbuilt outhouses?
I think the point is that they are completely uncommon because it's a ridiculous thing. Like the other thing is, I've never actually had a long-term relationship with an outhouse. Although my great-grandmother did have an outhouse until she was like 90 years old because she grew up in extreme rural South Carolina. She lived in extreme rural South Carolina, but she
is there an echo in here?
My understanding is that when you would reach capacity on the previous shithouse, you would just dig a new hole and then pick the thing up and move it and put it down on top of on the new hole.
Well, but if it's made out of brick, that doesn't seem like a good idea.
It's not a great, like it's a bad choice, I think, is part of it. I hadn't really,
unless you relay it brick by brick and you make your like kids do that as like a growing up rite of passage. I've never really, thank you for bringing this up. This is a part of my vernacular for a long time.
This was my great grandfather's shit house.
Yeah.
We've moved it through the generations from homestead to homestead.
See, and then you can pass that down, like every family member, when it's ready to retire it, every family member gets a brick from that.
It's a brick from.
Yeah. You carve on it and you're like, this is the one that.
Because you wouldn't want like the wood. Oh yeah, I have a splinter here from the old outhouse. You can have it.
I will tell you, having had to visit my great grandmother, who was a nice lady and made good biscuits, and like she was very country, and I never knew her during the outhouse days, but when we would all go to her house to visit, like all the great grandkids and grandkids would come, she was allowed to use the inside bathroom, but we had to put the inside bathroom on her house because she had hip problems. And like she couldn't use the outhouse anymore.
She was allowed to.
Yeah, she was the only one that was allowed to. Everybody else had to use the outhouse.
Okay, see, it sounded like the way you made it sound like we usually make her go to the outside. Everyone else is using it, but she's allowed to use this one as well.
Yeah. But she like it was a nice outhouse. She had like a little. She'd pick lavender and put it in a little thing and chuck that down really nice. After you did your dirty simple business.
Yeah.
It was a fine way to live.
Okay, yeah.
I don't want to derail this, but chat has the perfect transition. Speaking of brick shithouses, have we talked about the 5060 Ti?
Yeah,
so you're saying it's over-engineered and too good for what it is?
I will tell you, this 5060 Ti, we're
it's a 16 gig version.
This is 16 gig from Asus's, the Asus Prime model. This is built real tough. Like you get a nice metal backplate. Like I actually really do like the Prime.
Built NVIDIA tough is what we always say here.
Exactly, yeah. Like I'm flexing on it. Like it is actually built pretty nice.
How's it run? Do people like it?
I actually haven't tested this one. Okay. So the reviews of the 5060 Ti 16 gigabyte essentially launched on the same day that you could buy them, which was last Wednesday, which was the day before our podcast last week, so we haven't got around to that kind of stuff. So we're going to talk a little bit about that, a little bit about everything that's transpired since then. Yeah. But we did our testing internally with a PNY version. It was like I don't think it had an official name, but on the box it said like stealth mode or something like that. So
it's right here on my screen. That's the PNY one.
Just to be clear, we haven't actually tested the 8 gig model yet. We've only tested the 16 gig model. So
far. Well,
weirdly they didn't send the 8 gig.
Well, that's the thing. Well, we'll get into it. We'll get into it. So the embargo and the sale date of the 5060 Ti was last Wednesday. The embargo date for the reviews was the same day, which I actually don't think is a good thing for consumers. That really is a bummer. And also, the 16 gigabyte version was the only one that was getting seeded. We got our PNY version from NVIDIA. Asus was having some shipping delays, so this one came a little bit afterward, which is why this Prime model I haven't actually tested. Both are the 16 gigabyte versions. I've not gotten my hand on an 8 gigabyte version, but to be fair, I actually haven't asked. So I thought I was going to be able to just buy one because supposedly nobody should ever buy these, and so they should just be in stock everywhere. But I don't see an 8 gig anywhere, unfortunately. So yeah, I might start poking around to get a hold of one of those, but supposedly people are saying that NVIDIA was actively denying or also not letting partners seed those 8 gigabyte variants as well. I don't know. I cannot substantiate
allegedly,
this. I did not.
I guess there.
Allegedly, right.
I once again I didn't try. I was. Yeah, for a lot of reasons, I just was focusing on the one that was in my hands, in front of my hands, and yeah. So there's the 16 gigabyte version. There's the 8 gigabyte version, which is the exact same 5060 Ti, other than the capacity. Mm-hmm. The pricing is $50 off from each other. So what, $370 versus $420, or maybe it's $480 versus. I'm sorry, $380 versus $429,
$379. I think there's $50 between them.
Okay, yeah. And then there's a whole thing with 5060 non-Ti. I didn't hear anything about like an embargo or it being sold last Wednesday, but what they were saying is that availability would be in May, and that there's not going to be an embargo, and that whenever you get one in, you can review it, which I don't like. I think that is a missed opportunity to have an actual launch, have everything structured around that. So from the top of the stack to the bottom of the stack, it's all kind of the same parameters. So that's something to talk about a little bit later. But yeah, a lot to dig in here. And yeah, so I guess we can quickly go over the 16 gigabyte version stuff. Like in our testing, in the time that I had it, which was fairly limited, I just focused on 1080p gaming, and then a couple other benchmarks.
Seems to make sense.
I mean, I don't know. Some people are saying that doesn't make sense, that this isn't a 1080p card, that it should be capable of 1440p. I didn't test it. There's others who tested out there. Spoilers, a lot of people are talking about VRAM capacity and all that kind of stuff. In the stuff that I tested, I mean, it was anywhere from 10 to 20% better than the 4060 Ti. Doesn't match the 4070, and obviously falls behind the 5070. So
how does it line up with the 9070?
It's underperforms the 9070. Yeah. So the 9070 and 9070 XT are more performant. So I had, instead of comparing it to those, I had put in our review it against the 7700 XT, which is roughly the same MSRP. I don't know. A lot of stuff we can.
Has AMD hasn't announced cheaper than 9070 parts yet? Have
no, there's rumors, which we'll get into in the next section, because we got rumors of other stuff, but no.
And while we're talking about that price range, did Intel
theoretical price range?
Did Intel, while we're talking about that theoretical price range, did Intel confirm that they're not going to make higher end Battle Mage parts? They're only sticking at 250?
I have been hearing that rumor from various sources for about the last 4 to 5 months now, and
we got rumors in the next section. We got rumors in the next section.
Sorry,
we'll get to the rumors.
I believe they've all but confirmed that they will not be making a big Battle Mage chip.
Yeah, or at least not.
They should call that Beefy Mage.
Beef Mage?
Beefy Mage.
Beefy Mage.
Tank Mage.
Tank Mage. He beat me to it.
So yeah, I did throw the PNY version in my small form factor work rig at home. By the way, I switched back to my desktop rather than doing the laptop chud stuff. Yeah. So I threw it in there just to kind of mess around with it and get some like of my own hands-on experience with it. Yeah, I mean, here's the thing. Pricing, we all know, is like it just in a horrible crap spot. So MSRPs, I did see, I mean, at least listed on Newegg, was theoretically within the prices of what they were saying, depending on the model you get into. I actually don't know the price on this Prime card, but the PNY one I believe was right at that 430 price range. I should look up this.
Asus Prime is $470, so
a $40 increase over the PNY, which I mean, I will say, like, nothing against the PNY version. The PNY card was really nice. Like this is substantially better in terms of build quality, and also bigger. I mean, it has 3 fans, so that's one bigger than 2.
One more than
bigger fin stack, flow through design. I mean, like I bet if I were to put this through paces, it would be even cooler and quieter than the PNY.
Too. The blast fan's a blower, an exhaust blower, which I think is nice.
But yeah, so I don't know. So we talked about this over on your podcast last Friday on Talking Heads. Over on Craft Computing. I know we've talked a lot about the 5060 Ti. There's a lot of outrage. Let's just talk about that, because there has been some outlets who have put out reviews of 8GB variants. Have either of you watched any of that coverage? No,
I have not caught any of it.
Okay, so I did. And yes, you're going to have problems with 8GB of VRAM capacity at this level, depending on what you do, right? I do think, for the most part, a lot of this lines up with what is your budget? What are you trying to do? What do you care about being future-proofed? All that kind of stuff. And 8GB, feels really thin in this day and age. Does that mean it's not right for anybody? I would say no. There are situations where, hey, if somebody wants to buy it, go with God. Have fun. Do you? I mean, for me, I would want more VRAM capacity. We actually put up a video on PCWorld last week.
Yeah.
You and Brad sat down and talked about the practical effects of VRAM capacity.
But also, I mean, part of the thing that everybody gets hung up on the amount of the VRAM in the card, and nobody looks at the speed of the VRAM, which it turns out is probably more. In situations where you're not VRAM limited, the speed of the VRAM is going to have a direct impact on performance in every single game. And like the number of places with an 8 GB card, I think we were talking about 16 GB cards versus 12 GB cards. And like at 1440p, 1080p, it's hard to cap out a 16 GB card right now. I think we couldn't even get Indiana Jones to fill a 16 GB card at 1440p, if I recall. But there's only like 8 to 12 games, even at 1440p, ultra settings, path traced, etc. Cyberpunk, Indiana Jones, Black Myth Wukong, that even stress 12 GB cards, let alone 16. Yeah. So and if you're playing at 1080p, the number goes down a lot more, because like the thing about video card bandwidth, the memory bandwidth, is everything that's fill rate limited, meaning almost all of your raster based benchmarks that aren't CPU bound are going to see a benefit by increasing the width and speed of the memory bus. That means the clock speed of the RAM and the number of bits that are transferred per clock cycle, which typically is represented as like, I think on these 5060 cards, it's 128-bit bus. Isn't that right?
192.
192 bit bus. Yeah. Whereas on the 5090, it goes all the way up to
320?
320, I think. I can't remember. But that means you're transferring more bits per cycle, and you're doing more cycles per second, because the clock rate and you basically multiply the clock rate and the number of transfers per second to get the memory bandwidth of the card. So it's like, is it like, would I buy an 8 GB card in 2025? Probably not. Like, are they right to make cards for all potential? Like the purpose of capitalism is to fill every potential niche of everybody who wants to buy something with something that they can buy. And they're going to keep trimming out different features to hit price points. I would rather they do probably faster 8 GB cards than they're doing. I think the 128-bit bus is kind of puny. But like, they're gonna fill the gaps. Like, you don't have to buy them. That's the thing. But like, I don't understand why people I don't understand the outrage ponies about this. I mean, this has been the way it's been forever.
I would say there's 2 things. One of them I think is legitimate, is that the 5060 Ti right now, if you go out on store shelves, well, whatever. I mean, theoretically, if it was on store shelves and in stock, if somebody who wasn't educated would look at this box, and I have a box here in front of me, and be like, oh, this is a 5060 Ti.
Yeah.
It's not until you look at this smaller print right here that it says 16 gig version versus an 8 gig version. So I would say that is a piece where NVIDIA could do better in saying, hey, no, rather than having two VRAM capacities of the 5060 Ti and potentially fooling somebody who might not know what they're looking at, and they're like, oh, I'll just get the cheapest one, and not realizing that there is a capacity difference between the two. I don't think that's good, or at least literally put it, you know, like as part of the name rather than having it over here. And same thing on the so that you see it. But I think having a better way to indicate, or having a different number. They
used to put the screwy memory configurations on like 1550s and 1650s and stuff like that, like on the kind of in between Zs, which feels I think a little bit better. I like
but there's that, because yes, I don't want anybody getting confused about what's what. So when you have the exact same model, but you have two different configurations, and you have to look at specs on a box to understand what the different configurations is, that can lead to some confusion. And so I think NVIDIA could clean that up. There is a way to do that. You title it something different. On the flip side, the other thing that I think is harder to quantify is the pricing. That's what people are getting really hung up about, because I believe that there is not a bad product, there's bad prices. So a lot of the times people are not saying that 8 gigabytes, or what it looks like they're saying is 8 gigabytes is trash, you should never use it, it's a piece of junk, it's just going to not work under any situation. But actually no, 8 gigabytes can be for you depending on your budget. And so a lot of people are saying, hey, like if this is a 400 or a potential theoretically $380 card, you should get more than 8 gigabytes for that price. And that's a different proposition. That one's harder to talk about in my mind.
I think one of the biggest problems today, and why we're feeling jilted, I think, for entry-level cards, is entry-level cards are twice as expensive as they used to be. NVIDIA 60 series cards were $229, now they're $380 and $450.
Yep.
There's also a widening gap between the top-end cards and the bottom-end cards, because back in, again, like Pascal and Maxwell days, there was only a 3x performance difference between a 960 and a 980 Ti. Now it's a 4 or 5x difference between the bottom end card and the top end card. When reviewers test cards, obviously we want to eliminate bottlenecks, and so we test everything at 1080 or 1440 Ultra. Because there's a widening gap now, we're seeing more disparity in those tests. We're seeing cards like the 5060 Ti, which may not be capable of 1440 Ultra in every single title at 60 frames or now our perceived minimum, which is like 90 to 120, because our expectations have gone up with high refresh rate monitors. Some people are feeling a little jilted. I don't think there's a problem between cards being available on the high end, which have better performance and more features, and you can turn all the smoke and mirrors and RTX and all that stuff on. But we also have to understand at the bottom end that you're not going to necessarily be able to just take a card out of the box anymore, plug it in, run 1440p Ultra simply because you bought a brand new graphics card.
Yeah, but it's $400. You should be able to do that. You should be able to do that for $400.
And I get that argument, and I'm not defending the pricing structure at all. I believe the 5060 should probably be $230 or $250 like it was with the 10 series cards. I mean, we're not that far removed from that launch.
It's been 8 years, 7 years.
Yeah. Well, I mean, there's COVID in between, so that's an extra decade. So, but it's just there's a wider gap than there used to be between the low-end performance and the high-end performance. There's different expectations about what a brand new graphics card should be capable of, because when we reviewed the GTX 1060, for example, it averaged 60 frames per second at ultra settings on every game at 1080p, and that was the setting for the day, and everyone was happy. Now, when the 5060 Ti is being benchmarked, and it's getting 90 frames per second at 1440 Ultra, but that's not good enough, or it doesn't have enough memory, or there's 8 games that you're going to have to tweak down slightly because the 8 gigabyte card doesn't have enough memory.
I mean, so that's I think part of the problem is that when you're buying a $450 card, $430 card, whatever, you're in that 1080 range, that GeForce 1080 range, where you're like, oh, this is a $500 card, this is the best card I've ever had, right?
Totally.
And like, I mean, honestly, I think what's happening here is that NVIDIA's kind of reaping what they sowed when they renamed the Titan cards, which were predominantly for like GPU compute and data center use, as mainline GeForce cards, thus raising the ceiling on gaming performance at the same time that they were like kind of crushing the low end by limiting RAM configurations and stuff like that. The other thing that's so people in chat were talking about this, and I'll come back. I'll come back to it in a sec. But in the old days, the RAM configuration mattered a little bit, right? If we're going back to the dawn of the GeForce 3, GeForce 4, when they first started segmenting out the product line with the MX and TI and baseline GeForce lines, where the MX was the low end part, the GeForce was the mainline part, and the TI was the enthusiast part. Prior to that, they just had one card, and you could get a GeForce, or you get a GeForce with SDR RAM if you wanted, and they sold those in the same boxes. And if you didn't know, you'd buy the wrong one, and it would be half the speed of the good one.
Yeah,
like the naming schemes have always been a disaster. Like they've never been. Nobody's ever good at this in the PC space. Like everybody. You always have people who love cars, and they're like, look, Mercedes does a 3 Series, it's the cheap one, and a 5 Series, it's the good one, and the 7 Series, it's the really nice one. And they always muck it up because it lasts one generation, and then they add a TI on or something stupid.
Yep.
And just to be clear, Intel, AMD, NVIDIA, everybody's guilty of this. They all suck at it.
Monitor makers.
Yeah. So the naming has always been bad. The memory configurations have always been difficult to understand, and it's why channels like this exist and why people like us sit and talk about this stuff all the time, is because if you want to not buy a piece of hardware, you have to pay attention to the fine print on the boxes, and you have to know what you're purchasing. And like, yes, functionally, most of the 5060 Ti 16 gigabyte cards are going to be the same. They're going to work there'll be like a couple of percentage points of difference based on whether people overclock, whether people good cooling, what kind of thermal goo they use on the pad, on the interface between the cooler and the GPU. But if you buy the 8 gigabyte one, it's going to be slower and worse. And it's just the way it's always been. It's always been buyer beware.
Well, and I'm not calling out Unbound here, friend of the show Unbound, but it says it should be at minimum be able to play the upcoming titles at maximum on the second tier resolution. So I would say that's the other thing, is that we're enthusiasts. I love to play the new things coming out. That's just who I am. But a lot of people in this price range, that's not what they do. All they'll do is play Overwatch, or all they'll do is play Minecraft, or all
Warcraft,
they'll do
World of Warcraft. They're literally we're literally talking. These are cards for people who are playing 10-year-old games in a lot of cases. Which Dota 2, League of Legends.
Look
Overwatch.
at the top 50 games on Steam.
Yeah,
the top 50
Counter-Strike.
Yeah.
So here's the other thing I was going to say is, we're at the era of we're at the part of the console cycle right now where the PC is going to start stretching far beyond what the consoles are capable of, right? We've been there for a while, but now we're at the point where the games are coming out. People are like, Indiana Jones is a game that was essentially looks like it was made for next gen consoles. And when we see the Indiana Jones remaster that comes out when the PS6 and Xbox, whatever they call the next series Y, or whatever they call the next one, like
something
like
naming
anyway,
sucks.
They're gonna do a bad name for that too.
Yeah.
When they like these are games. I am thrilled that people make games that don't run well on current gen hardware. And like, you need to like the fact that they do that is good for all of us, because it means we get to see stuff that wouldn't exist if we were just if everybody's just building games that run on Xbox Series S's. Games would look like crap, and we wouldn't have stuff like Indiana Jones. We wouldn't have full path trace games. We wouldn't have Wukong. Yeah. We wouldn't have Cyberpunk. We wouldn't have Indiana Jones. We wouldn't have Star Wars Outlaws. None of those games would exist. So like, you got to not measure your self-worth based on whether you can run ultra settings on your $500 video card.
Well, here's a question. Once again, Unbound says, if a new card can't play a new title in quality of this decade, there is a problem. Was this true? Was this always true in the past as well?
Yes.
No. There were Far Cry 2 didn't run on anything when it came out.
Right.
Well, what about 10 series? Like a 1060 that was a brand new card, could it play
No.
all the newest titles?
Play PUBG on a 1060 in 2017 and let me know how it goes for you.
Yeah.
You're playing at 1080p.
There's always been this handful of games that will not play on the lower end cards, on the 60 series entry level, and back then we got 1050 and 1050 Ti's as well, and those were hugely popular. And we talk about, going popularity of games and what hardware people actually have installed. Again, the top 9 of the top 10 cards that are on the hardware survey for Steam right now are 50 and 60 series cards. The one exception is the RTX 3070, which was $379. Yeah. And so it's in that price range of modern 60 series cards now. Every reviewer, we review Cyberpunk at ultra settings and path traced. It's 59th on the Steam played list with only 30,000 people playing per day. NVIDIA's sold more graphics cards than that. So even the top end of the top, Indiana Jones doesn't even show up on the top 100 on Steam Play.
No, and it won't until it's on sale for $18.
Right. But the top in descending order, Counter-Strike with 1.62 million players in the last 24 hours. Dota 2, PUBG, Schedule 1, which also kind of runs on a potato. Marvel Rivals, Banana, Apex Legends, Baldur's Gate. That's the one that might have some need
CPU,
for higher end graphics cards,
and
which
CPU,
also needs CPU, but also doesn't matter if it only runs at 60 frames per second because it's a turn-based strategy game. Which
actually, I played mine at 40 on my handheld.
Smooth 40.
Smooth.
Bongo
40.
Cat, Rust, Elder Scrolls Oblivion remaster is on the list with 116,000 now. Repo, Last Epoch, Path of Exile 2. That's probably the first game that we can say probably needs a little bit more performance. And
but it also runs on the Steam Deck. Well, yeah, it runs on the Steam Deck. Path of
Exile
Exile 2.
It's also Steam Deck certified, right?
Yeah,
so it runs on a potato.
Like we're so like if you don't build games that push the boundaries of what hardware is possible, then we won't like there's no reason to buy PCs, right? Mm-hmm. Like we want game developers to feel like they can make things that don't run at 120 frames per second on a $300, $400 video card. Like if you can't buy that card, that sucks, right? Like that feels bad, and I get it. But you also can run the same game on not ultra settings. Because the thing is, with the ray tracing stuff especially, ultra settings are doing an insane amount of math that cards, especially older cards, aren't capable, just don't have the juice to do.
Yeah.
And I don't know.
Well, yeah. So, and then somebody says, now do the screens people play on. I mean, we already know that 1080p still leads, but 1440p is catching up.
I think the lines are going to cross this year sometime, would be my guess.
Yeah, I would say it crosses this year, especially because the price of 1440p high refresh rate panels is now sub $150.
Yeah,
and so if you're going out and buying a $450 graphics card, you are gaming at 1440p.
Well, I mean, yeah. Also, I would say somebody who's probably, looking at the low end and paying $150 for a 1440p monitor probably isn't somebody who like digs deep into the specs and they're like, wait, am I running this native? They're either relying on the NVIDIA app or GeForce experience to tune something for them or the game itself, kind of thing. So I don't know. It's hard. I think a lot of this stuff we're talking about in theoretical land because we're enthusiasts. None of us are these people that we're talking about, right? We're talking tangentially about friends or family members or things like that who are down at this lower end, and that's not to cast aspersions. That's if I'm using that terminology the right way, but hey, if that's what you can afford, that's awesome. Well, like go for it,
but
right?
It's a choice, right?
Well, or that maybe that's all you have, so maybe it's not a choice.
No. I'm saying like how you run the game when you're buying one of these cards.
True,
that's your choice. You can choose to run it at 1440p at potato settings.
Yeah, or you can use some sort of upscaling, or maybe you're not rendering a native resolution. Whatever. I mean, there's so many different ways to do it. That's the glory of the PCs that you kind of have it your own way. But I think the thing that I get caught up in is that, while everyone can yell and be like, well, this thing shouldn't exist. Nobody should ever buy this. And it's like, okay, well, listen, obviously a lot of people are buying 60 class cards. So rather than either calling them idiots for buying it or just saying that nobody should ever buy this, you can give them practical advice.
Well,
and be like, okay, if this is the only money you have, this is the only budget that you can spend on something. Sure, it would be great if maybe the best price to performance is a 5070, or find a used 6700 XT or something, or I don't know, but maybe people don't have that money to buy.
Non-enthusiasts
Things
don't
are
necessarily
tight.
want to buy used.
Yeah.
Or they just want to, or they just play Counter-Strike, and they don't care. It's like, okay, well then here are your options.
Well, and like if you want to look at a card that's going to play Counter-Strike real good, it's right here on the table.
Yeah,
right?
there you go.
But the thing that you said a second ago, Jeff, is right. Like they're not. I completely lost the thread. I'm sorry.
Okay. Well,
it's gone.
I mean,
Jeff was right. That's all.
Jeff was right.
Jeff is right.
That
I mean, Jeff from Craft
yeah.
Computing is right. Says Adam and Will from The Full Nerd.
That's right.
So
fully validated.
Just turn on motion smoothing, and then everything looks great with your potato card. That's exactly it.
So I don't know. Like, is it justified to try to keep NVIDIA's marketing in check? Yes. And I understand why people do that. Is it justified to say, hey, they should have a clear delineation between VRAM?
Could they do a better job naming cards? Absolutely.
Absolutely.
Even if it was 5060 is the 8 gig cards and 5060 Ti is the 16 gig cards. That would be great.
Yeah.
I have a problem with people calling that out as bad, though, because hear me out. NVIDIA has absolutely screwed up before in naming the same number card, the 4080 and the 4080 12 gig, which were two completely different dies, and reviewers called them out and they ended up changing that numbering scheme. In this case, the 5060 Ti is a 4600 CUDA-Core GB206. It's the exact same die on both pieces of equipment, has the same memory bus, the same 192 memory bus between the 16 and the 8 gig card. The only difference is the amount of memory. Mm-hmm. I don't have a problem with this particular card being named this way. It's when there's physical differences in the card or actual performance differences outside of memory specific things.
Sure. Actually, you know what?
I have a problem.
That's a good delineation. You're right. That 4080 thing was a big mess up, but I still feel like they could do a better job of placing that on the package. If somebody's going in, well,
that's a OEM problem though. Like that's not something.
No, because this I know is under NVIDIA's control. The OEM does not get to pick
those.
Yes, this piece of marketing right there is 100% dictated by NVIDIA. You cannot change that, and so that needs to be. I feel like having it there is probably more beneficial than just having it as a little speck on the call out on the box.
I know what I was going to say. Jeff's point about the aftermarket,
Jeff's right.
The market for used cards evaporated in the mining era, right?
Yeah.
Because if you bought a used card, if you bought a used 2080, you were going to have a bad time almost certainly. and I think that probably applies through the 3000 series cards. I think I've been telling somebody was like, hey, should I buy a used 4080 the other day? And I was like, I think it's probably okay. Like I wouldn't buy it from like an AI lab probably. But if you're buying it from a person who plays games, you're probably safe because it's not like they were burning it to mine Ethereum like they would have been on a 2080 or 3080 at the same time period.
Yeah. Well, so here's the thing. Oops, I had it. Like rather than just yelling about how crappy this is or how bad price is or how 8 gigabytes should never be sold in this day and age, why don't we just focus on actual like, hey,
what you can get,
what you can get and what you should do, right?
Yeah.
So like I'm looking at eBay. I haven't tested this, so this is a grain of salt thing, but I'm like, okay, well hey, the 6700 XT was an awesome card. I don't know how it holds up in the latest and greatest games right now, but it looks like I see $300 sold used, 280, 375, 370,
I think I would
195.
take the new card over the $375 used card.
I mean, so would Gordon, but I mean, let's look. Let's be like, okay, well, what's
Like the fundamental problem is that there's no deals anymore because demand is really high, supply is low, and the cost of getting things into the country now is only going to go up.
Yeah, so I'm looking at like a 3070, which Mike Kreider on PCWorld, like that's what he's rocking. he would like to upgrade, but he's like, meh, he's fine with what he's in. What is this? 212, 311, 329, 242. I'm not digging into the actual, like if these are new or how used these are, kind of thing like that. But like, I think if you're looking at the market, it also depends on what you're coming from. Like, are you on a 1060? Are you feeling the squeeze? Then, you got to be like, okay, well, my budget is X amount of money. I'm coming from this, so no matter what, it's going to be an upgrade. So then you want to get your best bang for your buck. And
the 6700 XT.
Yes.
I've actually been compiling a huge document as of late for an upcoming video, so I can actually tell you relative performance.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. 6700 XT, the average score on 3D Mark Time Spy, that's across every user ever submitted, so pretty good metric.
Okay.
12,804.
Okay.
The 5060 Ti gets a 15,058.
And the 16
so 20%
actually,
increase,
can you
basically?
Yeah.
18% increase?
Yeah, it's about
like
25%
yeah.
faster than the 6700 XT.
Okay. Which is one good data point, right? It doesn't apply evenly everywhere, but it is.
But if a 6700 XT is selling for $350, $380, and you can find an MSRP 5060 Ti 16 gig.
Yeah, well,
which,
if you can, yeah.
If you can, it's 20 to 25% faster and brand new with a warranty. You're not buying used. The problem with the used market, Will, I'm glad you kind of circled back to this as well, is cards are selling almost exactly what their performance level is in the hierarchy because reviews are so good.
Yeah.
And we know exactly where cards are supposed to slot in, and they're charging the same price to performance that you'd get basically across the board, unless you find some really stupid deal on Facebook Marketplace.
Well, listen, this is an elevated price, so this is not the MSRP, but I'm looking at Newegg right now because a lot of people are bringing up, well, what about the B580? On Newegg, which this is an elevated price, once again, US Newegg, 320 is the cheapest one, and it's from a vendor called Onyx I've actually never heard of. So a B580, have you tested that? What's the...
I have not had hands-on with that, but let me...
check the score on that one, because I'd be curious. It's 320. I believe the MSRP of that card was 250, so it is elevated. But if somebody only has...
That comes in with a 13,792.
So better than the 6700 XT, but worse than the 5060 Ti.
That's exactly right. Basically, it puts it right on par between the 3070 or a 2080 Ti. Like, it's splitting the difference between those two cards.
Okay.
But we've also seen overhead issues with not running necessarily the fastest CPU, bringing that score down.
Yeah,
now, this is the average reported score on Time Spy, so...
Does it say what's average CPU, or how does it report any? I actually never looked into the metrics like that.
You can look up the individual benchmarks, but you can't average based on CPU performance or anything like that. So I can tell you a lot of the higher end ones. The top score ever recorded was a 16921, but that was with a 13900 KF, probably overclocked to the moon. And if we scroll down the list, I'm seeing a lot of 13700K, 14700K, a lot of Intel actually in all the top submissions.
Also, the friend of the show, the Roar, says Onyx is Sapphire. Actually, I need to look into that. I didn't know. Onyx Sapphire. So anyway, Will's leaving. He's just so upset. No, that's out of date. Or is that the new one? He lost Wi-Fi. We kicked him off the Wi-Fi.
This is how I found out they're tired of my business.
Yeah. We didn't have the heart to tell him that we don't want him around anymore. So I'm just kidding.
Wow.
He's going to show up tomorrow. His key's not going to work.
So, yeah.
If only I had a key. Are you kidding?
Yeah.
You think we can afford keys here?
Yeah, no.
Well, Adam gave me a key. What the hell?
What?
Yeah, he has a key.
Wow.
I'm just kidding. He doesn't.
I
got a parking spot, too.
So, yeah, I don't know.
Wow, now you're just rubbing it in.
No, nobody has parking spots here. Anyway. So, yeah. There's a lot to unpack here. It's not, I don't think it's a simple, I don't think it's a black and white. I think there is a practical way that journalists can talk about it. There is a time to get out there and talk about how you feel about things, of course, but also at the end of the day, don't forget that it's hard when you just say on one end, nobody should buy this. This is obsolete right off the shelf. Nobody should ever get that. It's like, okay, well,
which I think is an absolutely terrible take, because there's 8 games.
Well,
that the 8 gig card can't play at ultra settings today.
Okay. Yes.
but
whatever the reason for that take, sure. I get it. But also at the end of the day, I see a lot of questions of people being like, man, why are so many people buying 60 class cards? Don't they know? Are they stupid? Why do they keep doing it? It's like, because that's what's happening. That's what they're doing. That's the money, either the money they have or they're not as educated. So,
but to Jeff's point, there's an infinite number of different kinds of people who play games, right?
Mm-hmm.
There's an infinite number of people who need hardware, and there's an infinite number, and it may be that there's somebody out there who just I know for a fact there's a lot of people out there who play Counter-Strike and play Fortnite and play Call of Duty and play Apex Legends and play League and Rise and Rust and Overwatch and all these big giant live service games. Rainbow Six Siege, Rainbow Six Siege will run on a phone.
in the last 24 hours, 3 times as many people played Stardew Valley as Cyberpunk on Steam.
Yeah. And so there's an enormous market for people who don't care about big new AAA games, and these cards are fine for them. And they're more than fine because they're low hassle. You plug them in, the drivers are good. You install the NVIDIA app. It makes your settings good for whatever game you're playing, so you get a good experience without having to think about any of this nonsense. And it gives people the experience that they want playing these games.
Even a lot of the newer games that are coming out, they're being certified to run on the Steam Deck, which is a Van Gogh Zen 2 APU with 8 compute units.
Yeah.
I mean,
but that's got 16 gigabytes of VRAM.
But that's between
it's got
shared.
16 shareable.
Yeah, it's an Xbox 360,
Careful.
baby.
Now it runs at 800p. It runs at 800p, and the expected performance is between 40 and 60 FPS. But saying that the 8 gigabyte card of the 5060 Ti can't run any AAA game at ultra settings is just a misnomer. It's not accurate. And again, if you buy a 5060 Ti, and even if you get the 8 gigabyte model, and you can't run those 8 games at ultra settings, cool, I'll run them at high settings and still get 90 frames per second. Is that a bad thing for those 8 games that 1% of people on Steam play?
Yeah. And that's, once again, it depends on your money. It depends on the rig that you have. It depends on the cooling capacity in your actual chassis. It depends on the games that you play. It depends on how much time you have to game. Maybe you're literally just somebody who can only spare a couple hours on the weekend. You're like, you know what? I just want to get something cheap.
What if you just want
to play Stardew?
What if you just want Photoshop and Premiere acceleration? The real reason people buy video cards.
Well, that's what I'm.
Think about it.
That's what I'm curious about.
I benchmarked earlier this week. Spoiler for my video going live tomorrow. I re-benchmarked the RTX 3050.
Ooh,
one of the most hated graphics cards to come out.
Oh, yeah.
It's a terrible card, right?
Nobody should buy that card, Jeff.
Waste of sand.
If you have that card, you should just throw it in the trash and then pee on it.
This may be another motion smoothing moment, but did you know that graphics card came out of my primary gaming rig for the last 2 years because I wanted a low power machine in my living room?
What a horrible person you are.
Yeah, wow.
I'm a horrible person.
Yeah.
Wow. Well, with the motion smoothing, you probably don't notice all the frame drops. So,
well, it's got G-Sync. But you know what I did in Cyberpunk is I turned on fake lighting, which is global illumination non-RTX.
Okay.
Cyberpunk at 1080p medium settings, 62 FPS with a 0.1% low of 40.
Smooth 40.
On the worst graphics card that's ever been made, according to many reviewers.
Yeah.
Spoilers.
Well, but I
60 FPS.
Yeah. Look, we
all played Breath of the Wild on the Switch and called it the game of the year, running at 22.
Yeah.
You might have played it on the Switch.
I'm just saying for legal reasons I played it on the Switch.
But yeah, the
which, hold on real quick. I do want to point out the 3050 is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 7th place in the Steam hardware survey.
Does that include mobile too? I think they don't. I think 3050 doesn't break out mobile, but I could be wrong.
There was a mobile 3050.
Yeah, I know, but I didn't.
They don't break it out. No.
Because they break out some of the mobile, like 4080
That may be
mobile.
in
oh no, actually, no. You're right. There is a laptop variant.
Yeah.
So okay, so that is the desktop one.
Yeah.
The Steam hardware survey also only discloses the 100 most popular SKUs, and so there's going to be a couple like laptop variants and whatnot that never even show up. They just show up as like the 18% other devices. As someone who has been poring over the Steam hardware survey for the last couple of months.
Others only at 9%.
Yeah. I mean, okay. PC gaming contains multitudes, and
which is a good thing.
It is a good thing. Yep. And like, yeah, anyway, absolutes. There's no absolutes. It might not be good for you. That's fine. Don't yuck other people's yums.
Yeah.
Yeah. If you don't like it, don't buy it.
Yeah.
Don't. And, you want NVIDIA to change? Well, I can tell you exactly how they'll change is if you don't buy it. If people don't buy it. So. Yeah,
I mean, here's the thing. I'm going to go and tell you all the people yelling and being upset on the internet about this is not going to change the sales of this card one whit. Nope. Because the kind of people who are buying these cards are going to Best Buy and Micro Center and Amazon and Newegg and typing $400 video card and then buying the one that has the best user reviews.
Yeah.
Yep.
So, anyway, I am curious to get an 8GB version in. Awesome. I would like to provide the people out there with more information. If the people are even looking and watching YouTube videos, maybe they're not. They're probably not, actually. So the more information, the better out there between both variants. Do we need to scream about it? No. We can just give them the information, and then they hopefully will figure out their own damn minds.
I think to summarize, because there's a couple of people in chat, not going to name anyone out. Are they still doubling down that the 8GB is fine?
I don't think we ever said that.
I don't think we said that. I think there's a difference between holding NVIDIA accountable. Between holding NVIDIA accountable for marketing practices or the value per dollar that we get. I think I don't have a problem with the 8GB card existing though. Because again, there's only 8 to 12 games that it can't run at 1440p ultra settings as fast as the 16 gig card can. I don't think the 16 gigabyte card future proofs you much more than the 8 gigabyte card does. That's kind of a hot take because in a lot of my testing, there's only a couple games that even reach 12 gigs, and that's path traced Indiana Jones and path traced Cyberpunk and path traced Black Myth Wukong.
Which are going to be too slow to play on this card anyway, probably.
To be honest, you need a 5080 to hit 60 FPS with that anyway. Exactly.
Well, no, so, I actually did. Yeah, I can't remember
1080p
what my numbers were, but yeah, a 1080p you could actually.
Yeah.
But once again, upscale, whatever.
So if you need to play one of those games at ultra settings, I don't think the 5060 Ti 16 gig is even your winner for that. So I don't have a problem with the 8 gig card existing.
But the larger point is it's not our place to tell vendors what they should and shouldn't do. It's our place to tell them if they made something that's bad or something that's good. Mm-hmm. And like I don't think we haven't tested the 8 gig cards, so we can't say one way or the other, right? I would have it's like these all of these cards are going to come with caveats. And the first caveat is predominantly 1080p card. Right? Like these are 1080p cards that you can also play some stuff at 1440p, but you're going to have to make some compromises if you do that. And there's always compromises. Now, the thing that sucks is that the low end has gone from $229 to almost $500 in the last 10 years.
Yeah. And it is part of that greed? Because I think a lot of people would be like, well, that's just NVIDIA being greedy.
I think you could say
VGA.
I mean, yeah, but also you have to look at the number of transistors we're shipping and the fact, like, it would be easier for me to say, yeah, it's not greed if they were shipping on a different process than they were the last generation cards. Mm-hmm. I feel like that we're on the same 4 nanometer TSMC is still like that doesn't feel great.
But the price also went down from the 4060 Ti.
The price did go down from the 4060 Ti. So we're
getting more transistors for less money with the same amount of memory now. And the price went down.
Yeah.
So
yeah, so I guess Jeff's point is you can slice it to look however you want based on the criteria you decide to care about, because there's an infinite number of variables inside each of these cards. for all intents and purposes.
And at the end of the day, the more information, the better. Our job is to put the information out there, review these things, and let people make up their own mind.
Yeah, and chat says it is our place to tell you if a card is crap, though. I think our job is to tell you it is to form an opinion around a card, and part of our opinion is
is to tell you what your experience is going to be.
Actually, I don't know, because is it our job to give opinions?
I like giving.
It's our job to get the information out there.
Our job is to get the
opinion part of it. The opinion part of it, I think, is a little like, Is
a buying guide not an opinion? Is a buying guide not saying this is a card that is worthy of you spending money on?
Well, but I think what I'm getting point to here is that there's a very wide range of how you present your opinion.
Well, that's true.
Absolutely.
So yes, you can have an opinion being like, hey, for me, or I think this is whatever. But you might have a different opinion, and people going to the nth degree of opinion all the damn time. And
I said I think the 4060 is a fantastic card, and 5% of all gamers on Steam happen to agree with me in the last 2 years.
Or they just bought a machine at Best Buy that has that in it.
Or they bought a machine at Best Buy, but you know what? They're logging in with Steam.
Yeah,
that's true.
And they're playing games.
Yeah. And I would like to
far
point
more
out,
of them than are gaming on an RTX 4090 or 4080 or 5080.
Yeah.
I mean, do you guys think that NVIDIA expected? I kind of wonder what their projections on games that use path tracing would be at this point in the cycle, in the console cycle, because I feel like, I mean, they definitely spent money getting like path tracing in Indiana Jones and games like Alan Wake and some of the other games that are partner games.
Mm-hmm.
So they knew there were going to be some. I wonder if they underestimated the amount of like high end, like they're essentially next generation rendering engines were going to be available shipping by the time these cards hit. Because like if these cards had hit last spring, it would be a different story. We wouldn't be talking about this because it would be Cyberpunk would be the only thing that you could even come close to filling the RAM on these cards with.
Right.
Yeah. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Tech Potato has a fun question.
Oh, yeah.
Does NVIDIA care about gamers? Hey, Tech Potato, what percentage of NVIDIA's revenue are discrete graphics cards these days? That's the answer to your question, how much they care.
The AI, their data center products made 14 times as much as their GeForce products.
So is that like
in the
8%
last quarter
of the overall revenue?
They're about, yeah.
Yeah, I think they probably still care about it. I bet if they saw an 8% haircut, their stock would take a real dive.
Yeah.
I bet they care about 8% then.
Yeah.
Who knows? I don't know. I don't know what they're thinking. I don't have insight into any of their mind kind of stuff.
I think as OpenAI continues to look at how much money they're going to have to spend and has trouble raising money from anybody but SoftBank, I think NVIDIA is going to care way more about gamers in the next couple of years than they do maybe right at this particular moment.
I would agree with that.
We'll see. We will see. Anyway, I mean, we can continue to beat this outrage pony, or we can move on. Any other beating?
I'm pretty angry, Adam.
Yeah,
I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah,
I'm real upset. I feel like I should be angrier.
I'm upset we're not getting big Battle Mage. I'm upset that AMD keeps releasing 2 cards sandwiched between 2 NVIDIA cards and then calling it a day.
Well, yeah. Okay, so let's.
I'm upset that there aren't APUs that are as fast as a 5090, Adam.
Well, there is.
Why not?
Halo.
Nope, that's not as fast as a 5090. That's like a
kidding.
5070 not TI, maybe. I don't know.
Right? Yeah, it's 4070, 5070-ish performance, but up to 128 gigs of VRAM. So if you want to future-proof your VRAM usage, get a Strix Halo.
But that VRAM is too slow because it's only DDR5's like 6000, and it's not going to be VRAM. It's not GDR7. I want GDR7 on my APU.
Will's pissed.
I'm angry.
We need to move on.
Angry up the blood.
It is quad channel, so at least they did that for you.
You're quad channel.
Okay.
Thank you.
So
boom. Got him.
Boom. Let's move over to rumors, because we got some rumors that are interesting. I would say the rest of this year is going to be a little weird with everything that's going on. So
look,
I have definitely heard from plenty of vendors that like, Computex is going to be pretty sleepy. A lot of companies are like Ambernick, just the maker of the Chinese handhelds, decided they're going to pause.
Bring that up.
Yeah,
Thank
pause U.S. selling in the U.S. Framework said that they're not going to sell certain SKUs in the U.S. Who else? There was other companies. Yeah, so stuff's going to get weird. I mean, for the rest of the year in terms of like products and pricing and all that kind of stuff. So
one of the things I saw this weekend that started is there's a class action suit from a bunch of small vendors, not in the tech space necessarily, but like people who make things like board games and custom chewing gum, and American businesses that are impacted by tariffs because either they placed an order for something a year ago that's now being shipped, and suddenly their tariff bill is 5 to 7 times what they expected it to be. How's that going, Jeff?
Oh, it's been great.
And is this stuff you've already, like, for the board game people, they're talking about Kickstarters that they like already collected money for, and now suddenly their margin plus a fair chunk is being eaten by receiving these goods.
The advantage that I have is I haven't actually launched the product yet. Wait,
what's the product? Hold on, what's the product?
Yes,
what's the product,
Jeff? I happen to have a product. I'm a device company.
Wait, is this a rumor?
No, this is not a rumor.
Fancy.
What is that?
This is our open source rack-mounted temperature sensor. So I saw a need in the market for something like this, because if you've ever tried to, or if you've ever done a data center install or even a single rack install for a small and medium-sized business, one of the things that's often overlooked is the temperature of the server room itself. Because a high temperature in a server room leads to hardware failures, especially with hard drives and moving parts like fans and things like that. There are temperature sensors that exist for rack installs. Often they're environmental monitoring solutions added onto your UPS unit from APC or Eaton or something like that. Or there are dedicated units from Room Alert or a couple other companies. I know Johnson Controls has a couple temperature sensors as well. The problem is they give you terrible data, and they're anywhere between $400 and $800 to install for a single rack. The fidelity of those is also terrible because they give you 1 degree Celsius fidelity. So your graph looks like a stair step. Let's see. If you go to my crowd supply page, you can actually see examples of the graphs about midway down. I don't know if you can show that on screen at all.
What's the URL?
Just search OpenVirro. OpenVirro. OpenVirro.
No space.
And no space. Yep.
I'll put the link in chat too.
Well, thank you.
Yes, excellent. Yeah, openvirro.com, and there's a link to the crowd supply down at the bottom. But we're delivering a purpose-built unit that can reply over SNMP, so standard networking management protocol that should be on basically everyone's monitoring system already. We're delivering 0.5 degrees Celsius accuracy and a 0.01 degrees Celsius fidelity, which means you can see trends develop as they're developing within a couple of minutes of temperature changes. I can tell when I open the door to my server rack.
Wow,
you can
really?
see
To
those
grab a
changes.
beer.
That's amazing.
Yeah. So extremely high fidelity, extremely high accuracy. And the premise behind it is I want to deliver actionable data to people who are needing temperature monitoring.
So, well, real quick, is this only for like super large data center?
No, this is meant to be affordable to just about anyone. Our main unit comes with the brain and then a single temperature sensor probe, which this is about twice as big as it needs to be. I actually just got the final version that's going to be just this big. It's a little inch and a half square guy.
Nice.
And $149 comes with a single sensor, and the second sensor is an extra $30.
Jeff, I have a question.
Yes.
My home lab is on a shelf in my garage over the washing machine. It's just kind of on a pile.
Yes.
Will this help with that?
Absolutely, because not only is this a good temperature sensor, it's also a humidity sensor.
Oh, that's great. And what if I need something to like I have stuff that's a little tilted and I need something to prop up one side of it. Is it sturdy enough for that with the aluminum case?
It is all aluminum. It's 5052 aluminum, 1.6 mil thick, so fairly sturdy aluminum on the rack here. I wouldn't put a ton of weight on it.
Yeah, but like a Synology and a couple of 24 port network racks.
Sure.
No problem. Okay, good.
Yeah, definitely.
I was using a cardboard box up until now. So,
well, to tell you the truth, I did think of you because I was like, it would be kind of hilarious to have you try this out in your
with my piles.
In your
my home lab pile.
Yeah, out in your garage.
Look, I got a couple of Raspberry Pis in there. I don't even know what one of them does anymore. It's just still in there. You know.
Also, Brad Shoemaker, like I feel like he would want one of these things to like know the exact temperature and how things fluctuate in his office.
He's gonna put them on each of his hard drives so he knows which one is the hot one.
Yeah, because he's just that kind of person.
Can you hook multiple probes up to it, Jeff?
You can hook up to 2 probes to this. So it'll do front and rear of rack sensing is kind of what we were trying to do with a single device.
Wow. What if you want 3?
If you want 3, second device.
One. Yeah.
Wow. Or, the more you buy, the more you save?
The more you buy, the more you save. Or we're also developing Wi-Fi units. So if you wanted to use it for more general environmental sensing, we'll be releasing Wi-Fi units hopefully before the end of the year.
Huh.
And if people want to probe, get in on those hot probing action, how much does this cost?
It's $149 for the base unit, and that includes 1 sensor probe and the cable. And then if you want the second probe, it's $29.
Okay.
Well, we got a really important question from friend of the show, Arcane.
Sure.
Is this built like a brick shithouse?
Actually, I've gotten some comments that I'm overbuilding it, but the thing with rack mount equipment is it has to be sturdy because it has to hold its own weight. But you also have to deal with incidental bumps from rack mount equipment weighing 40 to 60 pounds.
Yeah.
And so it has to be able to withstand impact. So yeah, I'm overbuilding this box, but with very good reason. It has to survive.
Well, there you go.
Look, Jeff.
I think you need that on your page now. Built like a brick shithouse.
I was at the electronics flea market last weekend, and there was somebody there that had a 24 bay 3.5-inch drive rack. And I was just and right down the street from them was a guy that was selling 64 gig SSDs for $5 for 5. And I was like, oh, I did some math. I was like, and then I looked up the power consumption of the rack, and I was like, oh no, it would be way smarter for me to buy 1 2 terabyte spinning disk than 64. Like just the power consumption alone would eat me alive here.
Yeah, you'd be 2 to 3 watts per SSD.
It was bad. It was bad.
Yeah.
But, anyway,
cool that you're developing this. Yeah. People go check it out.
Is this the first time you've made hardware?
This is kind of my second release, but this is our first official retail product. Okay. We did do a beta release that looked a little something like this. This was released last summer, and it's a Wi-Fi version that basically used an RP2040 dev board and the sensor that we used in our final version.
Just to test the sensor?
Exactly. Yeah. Proof of concept and basically a large spread beta test. But we sold 400 of these.
Oh, wow.
This last summer. And so very successful. And so we decided to turn it into an official retail product. One of the main things that we did with this was we wanted it to be PoE. That was the number one request from people. So this does work on class 1 active PoE.
Okay.
It will not work with passive PoE. So if you have some MikroTik switches are only passive, but basically any actual PoE switch, any managed PoE switch will probably work with this. We're still working on figuring out our exact compatibility list, but the switches it works on is greater than the switches it doesn't.
It looks really nice. There's a bunch of really cool open projects that have come up in the last couple of years that replace things that used to be phenomenally expensive custom install deals. Like PyKVM is another one that is in the same kind of world.
Absolutely.
That's like an incredibly useful piece of software and hardware combo. And I love seeing this. What was the like? If you were like, what would you tell people who want to make hardware, Jeff?
Don't.
Okay. That's the same thing everybody says.
This all started because a former colleague of mine who ran a lot of my, I used to work and basically we were an MSP where we managed a whole bunch of different organizations, mainly in like government and K-12 and things like that, but small medium business all up and down the use or the sizes. And he contacted me because we used to deploy a lot of single rack solutions. And he goes, did you ever find like a cheaper alternative to temperature sensing? Because we have some rooms that are getting like 95 degrees in the summer, and I'm having to replace hard drives like crazy. And my clients won't believe me that the problem is their room. And I'm looking for something that'll keep track of the temperature a little bit better. And I said, no, but let me look. And I couldn't find anything. The only solutions were APC, Eaton, Room Alert, and like I said, those start at $400 for 2 sensors. And the fidelity is terrible. So I said, no, I haven't, but it couldn't be that hard, could it? Like one of those famous last words kind of things.
Yeah, it's fine.
And so, yeah, we spent literally the last year developing this product. The firmware is going to be open source. And so you can modify it, you can add different things into it. We're also... Some of the open source community isn't going to be happy because we are going to do a contributor license agreement. So if you contribute something back to the project, we're going to own that piece. But that's because we're going to develop more specific data center products in the future that have encryption technology and things like that. Because I can't deploy this exact unit to data centers right now because I can't sign the firmware.
Gotcha.
That's a requirement for a lot of different ISOs and things like that. So we are going to require a CLA for any contributed code, but that's simply so we can make sure that we can provide a signed and validated copy for those who need it. But we're not going to change license agreements later on. It is going to be free and open source. You can use it. You can deploy it in your own hardware, that kind of thing if you want. But we need the freedom to be able to say we also need to lock down the firmware for data center customers at some point in the future.
Nice.
Cool.
So,
well, that's awesome, man. Congratulations.
Good luck to you in your endeavor. That sounds exciting, but also
Hopefully
terrifying.
No more exciting.
It's frightening, but getting back to the main question about tariffs and how has this impacted me, it raised my cost of manufacturing by 40%.
Yeah.
Luckily, I hadn't announced pricing yet, and I had time to kind of figure that out. But basically, when we were deciding on a final price was the time that current administration was kicking off a 50% tariff on all imports, which means either I have it manufactured overseas and I pay a 50% tariff or higher depending on which way the wind is blowing that day, or I find a US manufacturer who I can have the boards assembled with and I simply pay 40% more to have it manufactured domestically. Now, the idea behind the tariffs was going to be, well, we want to incentivize US manufacturing. That's a good idea if the price is lower or equitable to what we're paying overseas. The problem is all it did was raise the price of everything. Yeah. And so whether I have it manufactured overseas or manufactured domestically, my price at manufacturing is now 40 to 50% higher than it was 2 days ago.
Well, I'm even hearing that US manufacturers are canceling pre-tariff contracts because because their demand has gone up, their prices have gone up, and thus you have to compete at the
demand goes price. Up, and make no bones about it, I'm still paying tariffs for imported raw materials and components, and these cases are not cheap. This aluminum extruded case and faceplates and everything. This is all not cheap stuff to do. All of it went up across the board 40% overnight.
All right. Well. Womp womp. Well,
tariff talk is over.
Yeah, tariff talk. Well, good luck.
Yes.
And I do think tariffs are going to play in a lot of this stuff that we're going to talk about.
Yeah.
So I do think it is interesting to kind of gauge the temperature, especially while take temperature. While Brad's not here. Shh. He's not here to get mad at rumors. Just kidding.
I'm not getting mad.
Yeah. Yeah. Please don't get mad.
I don't get mad.
The first rumor I want to talk about is also GPU related, and it involves maybe a higher end Battle Mage.
Oh, this will save us. This will save us from NVIDIA trying to screw us, man.
So there's a couple ways to look at this and people have, right? Because I actually do think Intel has come out with some sort of certainty and said, hey, you know what? There's not going to be a flagship GPU. I think it depends on how you can count that. But this newest rumor that I saw over on videocards.com shows shipping manifests that revealed development of a BGM G31 GPU, a higher-end version compared to the G21 used in the B580.
That's exciting.
So the manifest, according to video cards, the manifest clearly state that it's for research and development purposes. So
that sounds less good.
This could simply be a validation sample. It could be an enterprise card because they haven't expressly stated that they're canceling their Flex GPUs, their Flex Battle Mage cards, and so we could see the B32 die wind up on one of their Flex series cards, which are $3,000, enterprise validated components. But
yeah.
So there's I think some people pointing to this as either a higher end VRAM version of the B580, which or it's just a capacity change, or some sort of development thing, which happens all the time, right? I mean, companies need to get in development versions to test certain things.
Maybe they fired it up and they tested it out and they were like, this thing's a waste of sand, and they just stopped it right there.
Yeah,
right.
So I'm curious because
the rumor that I've heard,
what have you
through
heard?
the grapevine, is they canceled Big Battle Mage, the B32 die, because Celestial, their 3rd generation product, is basically already ready to press.
Oh.
And so rather than releasing a large card and then 6 months later coming out or announcing their Celestial cards, they're just going to wait until Celestial launches.
And do we know who's manufacturing that?
TSMC.
TSMC. Okay.
4 nanometer probably.
Yes.
Interesting.
Huh.
Because I wonder, here's the other thing, like the ability for TSMC to keep up with all of their demand, right? Because stuff hasn't slowed down for them.
Well, and they have just the Phoenix plant, the Phoenix 4 nanometer thing is going now,
yes,
right?
Their Phoenix one is operational, and they are actually booked out through the end of 2027. As far as capacity goes, and
I mean, I think what this means is that instead of like, it's not like there's this new plan is like, oh, okay, well, maybe we can produce this and this at the same time. It's more like, we've only got this amount of, wafer availability. Instead of just continuing to make that one, why don't you just now
and then
make the future one?
The other thing is they also, like, that TSMC 4 fab time, like when they buy the space, they don't lock it into the Battle Mage, so they could use it for a CPU or another part that they think there has more market ability on, or they could sell it to somebody else, right? Mm-hmm. It could be that, given how things are going on Intel's side right now, it could be that the best use of the TSMC 4 nanometer fab time that they bought is sell that over to Samsung or Nvidia or somebody else who actually wants it.
Yeah, right. Yeah. So a lot of moving parts, but a couple things to ask here. Like how if that's true, say that this is say that Celestial is releasing later this year, and the B570 and the B580 are the only Battle Mage cards that came out during this generation. What do we think? Do we think Battle Mage was a joke? Anyone who bought it got screwed over?
Lunar Lake alone,
I don't think so.
Validates its existence. Like,
I mean, but we're talking about
a
different generation of GPU. Like, I mean, because that even the earliest iteration of Battle Mage was what, Lunar Lake, right? XE2 architecture.
Yes.
So that was like what, September of last year?
Yeah.
So that would be a generation.
I don't think anyone who bought a B580 is going to be buying a high-end Celestial card anyway. You're talking an order of magnitude. You're talking a 60 series versus a 70 or a 70 Ti. As far as price difference, you're talking $249 versus what, $500, $600 for a top end GPU.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm just spitballing here, but I don't think if you bought a B580, you're really going to care if Intel comes out with a high end Celestial card in 6 months.
It does seem pretty quick though.
I mean,
like imagine if AMD or Nvidia was on a, hey,
honestly,
we're gonna change the architecture every year.
Even if they don't sell those to consumers, I'm really glad that they exist, because it makes things like testing games that are going to have broad appeal much easier. Because it means that you can set up a test suite on a desktop PC someplace if you're a mid-sized game studio and have budget and time for that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Like it's good that they continue to release those desktop parts. But also, that Battle Mage card was nice for $250. The real answer to, hey, the 5060 Ti is kind of a crap card, especially at 8 gigabytes, is just buy a Battle Mage and resign yourself to 1080p and have a nice time with that.
Yeah.
Like that's a super good deal for
$120
less, $130 less,
right?
Whatever.
Right. That's one of the things to look at for sure. It has been oddly quiet from that end, right? Intel obviously is going. There's a lot of stuff going over on Intel, right? We didn't even talk about the new CEO, them coming out and talking about all the changes that are going to be making. So there's definitely a lot going on over there. So rightfully so, I get it. It's probably been a little quiet. They're working on a lot of stuff. They're trying to figure out the future of stuff, but I mean, I for one at least always enjoy having Tap on to talk about. So, hopefully he can come on at some point to talk soon, because I'm eager to hear what they have cooking over there. And I mean, between the Battle Mage cards, between XE2 on Lunar Lake, there was definitely some things to get excited for. It's like, oh, okay, wow. Like, yes, there are still some caveats, but not more or less than I believed was like still true for any of the other vendors. And then in handheld gaming, it was competitive. Unfortunately, a lot of people didn't really spin it up other than MSI. I mean, either way, like, who knows? That's why we don't cover rumors too much, because we usually focus on practical buying advice. But either way, I am curious to see what Nvidia or Intel has up their sleeves coming up soon. And if anything, this shipping manifest thing over on video cards, indicates that they are continuing to work on stuff. They are looking at things and trying to figure out. So we'll see. Also on the Intel camp is another. And sorry, I have a link to that one and a link to this one in the description. Also over on video cards, they're talking about the new socket for Nova Lake. And also something that I've been saying for a while is that this year is not going to be Nova Lake, that this year is going to be an Arrow Lake refresh. Things have maybe got pushed back a little bit. So
I'm hearing Nova Lake 2026 sometime-ish.
Yeah. So
what's Nova Lake again?
So Nova Lake is the new desktop series of processors. Yeah. So it would probably be designated as the Core Ultra 400 series, assuming that the 300 series is an Arrow Lake refresh.
The 18A stuff, theoretically?
I believe so, yes. I can't remember off the top of my head, but I believe so. So two things to talk about here. The Arrow Lake refresh. There's actually other things to dig into as well. How do you feel about an Arrow Lake refresh?
I think I'm okay with it.
What would you want from it?
What do I want from it? An actual step forward. I want to see more performance or more features or return to competitiveness. It doesn't have to beat a 9800X3D, but it has to be a step forward for Intel, because it's been a couple generations now since Intel has had a step forward. They went 13th gen Raptor Lake to 14th gen Raptor Lake refresh, which was shiny new paint on the exact same chip. It was 2%-ish increase, if you can even suss that out of a benchmark.
That's what a refresh is.
Right, which is fine.
So do you think you're aiming a little too high then?
But then they went Arrow Lake, which was 5% faster in some metrics, but also a regression in other metrics because brand new architecture, new little tweaks and things that went there. they went back when AMD took a large step forward between Zen 4 and Zen 5. And so regardless of what Intel does, whatever platform, whatever architecture, I want to see a step forward.
What if we don't get that? What if it's just a refresh?
Then they need a win in some other department.
Hey, guess what time? Guess what ponies we get to ride?
Yeah, there you go. Well,
right.
So the other end of it is actually one Mark Hawkman over on PCWorld. I need to put this in the description as well. I'll just put it in the chat. Has an article about an update to Arrow Lake 200 series performance improvement. So the headline is Intel is giving Core Ultra 200S PCs a free performance boost. Technology supported by most motherboards, but you'll need fast memory. So the idea is the boost is, I believe it's mostly around memory speeds and overclocking, right? So I would say here's a possible scenario. Since the Arrow Lake launch, and obviously it didn't, there's a lot of places that didn't win in the benchmarks, and it was very confusing. What if the refresh has changes, maybe to the actual clock speeds, maybe some bumps, maybe some extra cores here and there, who knows, whatever. But actually it's just a repackaging and a reintroducing the world to Arrow Lake to say, hey, since then we've also had OS level improvements with scheduling. Since then, we've also had this memory increase improvements. So a combination of all of that becomes an Arrow Lake refresh moment of like, hey, you remember what the narrative was at launch last year? Here's the new narrative.
But if I have Arrow Lake, I think you're thinking that Intel cares a lot more about what we say than Intel probably cares about.
I mean, but that's true for everybody.
Yeah. No. I mean, I'm just saying in general. I'm saying I think Intel cares about what YouTube and reviewers say, but not as much as reviewers and YouTubers think that Intel cares.
Yeah, well,
I think that probably an Arrow Lake refresh. Like I think that's exactly what we're talking about in terms of an Arrow Lake refresh. That's exactly what it'll be. It sounds like they saw some good from Mark's article. It sounds like they found good games by overclocking the Foveros kind of connective tissue of the whole thing.
Yeah, which I haven't tested yet. That's actually
Gordon and I noodled with it when we had a little bit of dead time at the end of the benchmark loop last fall, and it was we got interesting results. I think we only ran Cinebench, but we got interesting results with it. The thing that struck me about the Arrow Lake stuff in general was the number of dials you have to turn in terms of where you can adjust clock speeds was kind of intimidating, just out of the box without any documentation.
Yeah. Well, so yeah, that's realistically what I think it's probably going to be, is just a reintroduction of Arrow Lake into the world, to be like, hey, you know what? Yeah, here's one launch, but this time this is the real Arrow Lake launch. This is the refresh. I mean, I'm looking at Newegg, US Newegg. This is one data point. Look, I went to the CPUs and I sorted by best selling, which is, take that with a grain of salt, how they configure that as well. Nothing on the first page is Arrow Lake. Most of it's AMD, surprise, surprise. Yeah. But if it is Intel, we're talking about 14th gen, a couple 13th gen.
KF there?
Yeah, even a 12th gen. Man. So yeah, like I think the thing is like a lot of people probably didn't buy into Arrow Lake, and so this is a chance to kind of reintroduce it into the market with all these fixes, whether it's hardware, software, OS, all that kind of stuff.
And now that I think about it, I don't think that's necessarily a bad move. I mean, look at how Ryzen was introduced in 2017, with the 1700, 1800X, 1900X. It was immediately competitive in certain segments, especially high-end desktop, immediately competed with, 7820K and chips like that, 8-core, 16-thread, and went, okay, we're at least making some noise here, and we're way more affordable. Ryzen got good with Zen Plus. That was partially a die shrink. Yeah. We went from 14 nanometer to 12 nanometer. But there was also about a 10% IPC improvement in that die, just with the die shrink alone. Also, they ironed out a lot of the memory compatibility issues, because Zen 1 was infamously buggy with anything over 2666 memory. And because of the Infinity Fabric, it's very closely tied to memory speed and how fast the processor actually runs. It's kind of an exponential trend if you can get faster memory going on it. Intel, their Arrow Lake launch, kind of reminiscent of Zen 1. It little bit buggy, little new platform, completely new buttons and dials to tweak in the BIOS, completely new interconnects. There's a lot to work out there. I think if Intel, kind of like the Zen Plus refresh, even a half step forward, makes the memory timings a little bit tighter, tells us what the buttons and dials do, and give us a more refined product, I think that's a good step forward.
Yeah.
And honestly, I think they're probably still going to lose in a lot of ways. I mean, the 3D V-Cache stuff is amazing, highly efficient, all that kind of stuff. But I don't think that matters. I think what they need to do is beat 14th gen, right? A lot of people saw the numbers and they were like, you know what? Actually, 14th gen you can get for cheaper and in a lot of ways still beat it. So I think that's probably what they're aiming for. Rather, like, I don't think they necessarily need to beat AMD. It would be nice, right? I think that they're always trying to do that, but.
And as Ian points out, they went too expensive packaging too fast. And I've said as much as well, because the whole idea with going chiplet or tile-based, whatever you want to call it, is you start making smaller components that you can then package together. The problem is Intel went chiplet-based, and then they have very customized assembly onto a shared substrate, which still needs like precision manufacturing. Whereas AMD, when they hit the reset button, they went, we're going to make a chiplet, and we're going to make an IO die, and we're going to glue everything together onto one piece of silicon and call it a day. So AMD lowered their stack to basically manufacturing 2 parts, and they said, we're going to make those 2 parts really, really well. Intel went, well, we're going to make a GPU tile and a compute tile and an IO tile and a memory controller tile and this and that. And then we're all going to assemble those onto one substrate, which is a way more difficult manufacturing process. So they lost all the benefits of tiling anyway, outside of maybe you get slightly better bends on your tiles, but you still have the expensive process of putting it all together on one shared piece of substrate.
Yeah, and a good example of this is that recently I was looking at part numbers, and usually by this point in a life cycle, you would go to whatever the generation is on Intel's page, and it would be like a laundry list of like 20 plus different ways they chopped it up, right? Different, like, oh, you've got a K, a KS, a KF, whatever.
Yeah,
this
35
and that.
Different SKUs.
Exactly.
Right? Yeah.
We have not seen that with Arrow Lake.
There's what, 5?
Yeah, something like that. It's like, oh, okay. Well, that is a little weird. Yeah. So
I was going to ask, the other.
Don't ask.
Okay, never mind.
Just kidding.
Good talk.
Ask, please.
The other thing about the two. Okay, so there's Windows stuff that has to happen in order for this, in order for these new disaggregated designs to work right. We saw that lag on both the AMD and the Intel launch last fall. The kinks have been worked out there, and they've actually, my understanding is that the Microsoft and the OEMs are working together to change the way that stuff is distributed so that there's less likelihood that we'll see those problems in the future, because it did have a significant impact on both of those launches. I think the other thing that we're not getting is that, and it's funny because I'm looking at this, I'm thinking maybe I shouldn't talk about this because nobody's really written about it. There's the Foveros as an interconnect in terms of technical capability, the Foveros fabric is much faster theoretically for the CCDs or the individual chiplets to talk to each other than the Infinity Fabric is. But we're not really seeing the benefit of that on the Arrow Lake stuff right now. And I wonder if this is the kind of first step of Intel now that there's now that they've had a year of production on this stuff almost, that they're starting to kind of test the boundaries of what they can do with it in a more exposed way. And anyway, yeah.
Yeah. So interesting stuff. I'm curious. And then the other, so the next part of it is Panther Lake. People have mentioned Panther Lake. And I think what's going to happen there, because that's once again, like, that's 18A. That's a brand new process. A lot is hanging out on that.
Yeah.
that's why I feel like Arrow Lake refresh on desktop is probably the more likely thing to happen this year. And then Panther Lake, if it does happen, will probably be just high-end laptop. That it's so early that Panther Lake will probably come out in some capacity this year, but it probably won't be desktop.
And that tracks with a lot of the ways Intel typically brings new manufacturing processes to market. Look back at Ice Lake. We got 10-watt laptop parts first before we got desktop and server parts.
Yeah. So yeah, I'd be curious to see how all that plays out. But yeah, that's what I'm expecting, and then that's why I think on desktop, then Nova Lake would be next year, because Panther Lake would just kind of skip past desktop.
Yeah.
And that one has a brand new socket, so that was the other thing I was pointing to on video cards, is that we've increased the amount of LGAs theoretically up to 1,954. If quote if recent shipping manifest data proves correct. That's a lot of LGAs.
A lot of pins.
Yeah. Does that mean it's physically larger?
Yes.
Could also mean the pins are smaller again, but I don't think they've.
No, yeah. So at least
I don't think we've shrunk pins in a long time.
Yeah. At least here they're saying 24 by 25 millimeters is what the current chipset is.
Mm-hmm.
No, wait. Hold on. Okay, no, the current chipset, the LGA 1700 is 28 by 23.5. So this would actually be smaller at 24 by 25, so a little more square.
Yeah, it's more square, but hold on, what's the area is 28 by 23.5?
That's current.
So that's 658 square millimeters. What's the other one?
24 by 25.
Hold on. 24 by 25.
Live math.
600.
Oh, okay.
A
Wow.
little smaller.
Interesting. So, and especially if they make it more square, that will also help with
getting rid of the rectangular one is
the whole
great.
bending
Love that.
problem and all the brackets. So
amazingly enough, you can get more even pressure on a square surface than you can a long rectangle.
What a weird thing.
Well, yeah.
Weird idea.
Are there any I don't think there's any motherboards that come with an anti-bending frame.
No.
Yeah. Like, I mean, some
there's some coolers.
Coolers do.
Coolers do.
Yeah. But I wonder if that's like something motherboard manufacturers just.
I want a Battlestar Galactica CPU that's hexagonal. So, everything in Battlestar is hexagonal.
Yeah, there you go.
And I want that. And
when are we getting the Star Trek Voyager biogel packs?
Oh man! Or what about those little clear like the
the isolinear chips?
The isolinear chips that Data used to have to plug in.
Yeah.
We need isolinear chips, man. Somebody made a thing that we had untested once a long time ago that was a No, it was we made Adam's original Star Trek captain's chair.
Yeah.
We embedded some NFCs in, or actually they were just keyed magnets is what we ended up doing, I think.
Okay.
So that you could drop cards in, it would play sound effects on the chair when you were sitting in it. That was good stuff.
Nice.
That's interesting. So
Ian has a video about hexagonal CPUs, of course.
Nice. Well, yeah. So rumors there.
Yeah.
What are we hoping for Nova Lake? Also, that means we'll only get essentially one CPU and a refresh out of one socket.
I mean, that's
even
Intel
worse than usual.
Yeah.
Well, no, because Intel at least would have two, not one and a refresh.
Well, we got three. We got 12th, 13th, and 14th on the last one.
That was unusual.
One was a refresh though. So
one was a refresh. Yeah. Hey, we've gotten refreshes with different sockets before, though.
True.
Yeah, like the 9 series, 9000 Core i9 was a refresh of 8, wasn't it?
Yeah. Coffee to whatever 9th
KB
was.
or whatever. Yeah, I can't remember which one that one was. But yeah, 8086 and 9900 were basically the same CPU, if I remember right.
Yes.
Yeah, I just want them to be better than the last ones.
Yeah.
I want the when we're talking about video cards next year, and we're like, hey, what CPU should we test with on the Intel side? I don't want to be talking about the 14900 still. Right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I was doing some internal testing even for something else non-related and I was like, oh yeah, that 1400K is still faster in certain metrics.
Yep.
So yeah. Yeah. So there's
Any
that.
other rumors? You got anything else?
Rumors, yeah. So we got rumors.
Handhelds?
Well, AMD GPUs. We alluded to it earlier.
Mm-hmm.
There are rumors of a lower end 9060 or XT, or there's the GRE. There's actually been a lot of weird rumors swirling around about it. So there's kind of a lot over there. But I think that AMD's next approach will probably be the 60 class, right? Because that's what NVIDIA just launched, and AMD is usually right there nipping at their heels, being like, no, we got one.
Yeah.
So what do you expect from a 9060 or a 9060 XT or a GRE? Or
I don't even know at this point because look at the 9070 and 9070 XT launch. If we look at the rumors leading up to the launch, people were overestimating the 9070 and underestimating the 9070 XT. And it skewed 10% in either direction, where the 9070 XT was, I think, 10 or 15% faster than we thought it was going to be. And then the 9070 ended up just being literally a 56 or 5070 in lockstep in basically every benchmark.
Which, real quick, have you seen the videos? Like one, David flashed a 9070 XT BIOS on a 9070 and got
yes. Yeah, I am aware of that one.
It just worked, really?
Interesting. Yeah. There's been a couple of people who do that as well.
That.
Yeah. So, I mean, what I want is kind of what we all want. I want a reasonably priced, good performance GPU with enough memory to run everything. I think NVIDIA split in a wrong way. I mean, you have a 5060 Ti with 16 gigs and an RTX 5080 with 16 gigs. There's no delineation in memory sizes between those products. I would love the 5060 to come in with a 12 gig model instead of the 8 and 16 split. And I would love... No, I'm talking to the 5060. I would have loved to see that as one SKU with 12 gigs to make everyone happy.
I don't think that's how it works, Jeff. I don't think everybody's going to be happy.
I know. And NVIDIA gets to charge $50 more because now it's got a 16 gig card at that price point.
Jeff loves high prices. I hear it.
Yeah. But if AMD launches a 9060, I would love to see it in the $350 price point with 12 gigs of VRAM. And I would like to see it with similar performance to the 5060. I don't think anyone's disappointed with it performance-wise. I think everyone's getting hung up on the memory thing.
And pricing.
And pricing. Yeah, obviously it's expensive, but
also AMD usually undercuts on pricing, but they don't undercut like a, oh my goodness, this is just amazing undercut. It's like, no,
right.
That's a good undercut.
Right. Yeah, it's slightly better than what NVIDIA is giving us, So yeah, come in at $349 with 12 gigs of memory. You're pricing yourself right up against the 379 5060 Ti with 8 gigs of memory. I think that's a really good place to be. You're going to appease all the memory people who go, oh, now I can play Cyberpunk at 1440 Ultra path traced at 38 frames per second because that's what that card would be able to do.
Yeah. Well, I think the other side of the coin, which a couple people had mentioned in the chat, is, well, what about stock? Because that's been the other problem with the 9070 and 9070 XT is that while it has been super interesting and people have been very excited to snap it up, and they did have what seemed to be a lot more at launch than the competing NVIDIA cards.
Yeah.
Availability and pricing, well, go hand in hand, have been atrocious.
Every wafer that NVIDIA cuts and allocates to GeForce cards is selling their components for 10%. Because every Blackwell 5090 die that is not sold as a Blackwell GB200 or an RTX 6000, you're selling for pennies on the dollar. which NVIDIA doesn't want to do, and neither does AMD. Every wafer that AMD cuts with 4 nanometer TSMC that is not going to an MI300 or a 325X or whatever else, you're selling for 10% of your potential retail cost. And bottom lines don't like that. And like it or not, enterprise is way bigger than consumer right now. And until there's a delineation between what is being sold to enterprise and what is being sold to consumer.
Yeah, well, and I'm looking on new U.S. Newegg right now. And I sorted by in stock and lowest price. The lowest price is a Gigabyte 9070 non-XT for $830. It's on sale from $849.
What's the MSRP on that? Is
$749
for that chip.
For the 9070. Yeah, 9070 base MSRP is $749.
Wow.
So yeah, here's the other question. Maybe what if AMD waits to launch it? Should they launch it? Should they just ride it out? Is that how business works?
I think that they should just make a whole buttload of cards and then put them in a warehouse someplace and not do anything with them. Just have them just sit there aging, because the technology, it's like wine and whiskey. You want to put it in the barn in Kentucky, and like for a couple of months, it's going to be on the sun-facing side, and then they're going to forklift it over and put it on the shady side. And a guy's going to come by and pull one card out occasionally, just fire up some cyberpunk with path tracing on, just to get a taste of those springs and be like, not ready yet. We got to hold it for another 6. No, they should sell them. They should make them and sell them, and people can buy them. Because the thing is, like, a big part of the problem is it's not like, there aren't 4060s for sale right now. Right? It's not like you can choose to go buy a new last gen card at a little bit of a discount because they're running out old stock. They've wised up to that game, and they ran out all the old stock and then just didn't sell anything for a couple of months while they were getting the new cards ready to go. So please release the cards. Start selling.
I don't know. I can buy a 4060, a Gigabyte 4060 on US Newegg right now for $330.
Well, I would buy that. That sounds like a great deal.
That's an amazing price. I mean, that
8 gig card.
That's basically MSRP for that card.
Yeah.
So
you're getting a card at MSRP today. You should buy it.
Usually,
I hate that that's the benchmark. I hate that that's the that's a really great price. You got it for the advertised price from launch 2 years ago. Scoop that up.
Yeah, a lot of things have been different.
Yeah, nothing like getting a 2-year-old card for what it came out at. That's a real deal.
Well, at $329, would you rather buy a B580 or this 4060?
I think the overhead problem is going to be resolved as far as the not performing on as low of CPU as it should. Problem with the B580, I think that's going to be resolved. Intel has actually said as much within the last couple of weeks that they are aware and they're investigating that issue. And so a B580, I'd like it a lot better at $249, which is the price it's supposed to be, not $330. But it's basically the performance of an RTX 2080 Ti. And that card still holds up today. I mean, that's kind of the used darling if you can find one on eBay for $250 or $299 right now. So, yeah, I'd say absolutely go for that card.
Yeah.
See, it's just
Gordon would love this question. Gordon would love this question. Would you rather go 2080 Ti or 4050?
I'd probably.
Gordon would have palmed, his head on the microphone kind of thing.
Gordon would have just 2080 Ti. Honestly, I'd probably do the 4050 just because the 2080 Ti is going to be really loud
and really power hungry.
Yeah.
If I'm looking at two identical cards, identical performance, but one has newer generation tech and draws half the power, that's a really stupid question.
Yeah.
And one is 6 years old, and the other is brand new in box.
Yeah, I mean
that's a really stupid
2080
question.
Ti is going to be EOL. Is the next wave of stuff that gets EOL. So
yeah.
But the Founders Edition design was really cool looking.
It was loud, dude.
I've got one over here. It's a beautiful card.
So loud.
Yeah. Well, I guess the super refresh was better with the shiny.
Yeah.
Ooh, shiny. Anyway, so what were we talking about? Oh, AMD. Yes. So AMD lower end parts. Theoretically, what do you think? Do you think this is I have not seen AMD have any sort of talk about a keynote around Computex, but is this something they talk about at a keynote? If they did one.
If they were going to do something, I think it would be a keynote. I think there would be something. I mean, graphics cards launches are usually keynotes. Although they skipped the keynote for the 9070, 9070 XT.
Yeah.
I don't think they have a keynote for Computex,
They don't.
do they?
AMD and Intel,
planned.
neither of them have a keynote at Computex.
Yeah. Well, yeah. So NVIDIA does, but they're probably not going to talk about.
Are we going to learn more about the Omniverse?
A 50-50
I'm so excited.
or a 50-60.
I want to play that Omniverse game.
I don't think the Computex at NVIDIA is geared towards consumer.
Yeah. So I don't know. I also don't think. I think AMD doesn't have to wait for Computex to announce or talk about this either.
No, absolutely not. They could drop a press release and do a 60-second blurb on whatever, and it would sell.
Yeah. So we'll see. Any other rumors? Any other hot rumors you want to talk about? I didn't realize we're going long on time.
I'm rumored out.
Rumored out. Any rumors from you, Jeff?
I think I'm about rumored out. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Well.
Yeah. The big one I wanted to bring up was the Ambernick, but I think we glossed on that. Ambernick no longer selling devices in the U.S.
I think we're gonna see more of that.
Yeah, unfortunately, I think we're gonna see more of that. We're also gonna see more questions.
Ooh, Let's
move
questions.
over to Q&A. If you have a question, get them in right now. If you're watching live on YouTube at the Full Nerd Podcast, it's the easiest way for us to see it in the moment. But if you're watching or listening to this later, which a lot of people are doing, then if you have a question, hit the link in the description to go over to our Discord with the fine folks. We got some great people over there. But if you don't want to chat with them, that's fine. We have a channel over there for questions that you can put it in, and hopefully we will get to them later on the show. I have the first question lined up here, which is an interesting one. Oh my God, a lot of questions have come in from a friend of the show, Pyrocumulus.
Oh, that's a good cloud.
Yeah. Fiber optics in PCs is limited to SPDIF, Ethernet, and specialty active cables. Why do we not have a standard fiber optic data port? It seems that it could be a solution for virtually unlimited length and bandwidth for display cables, etc.
We've tried.
Yeah.
USB-C Thunderbolt has a fiber optic standard. No one ever implemented it because of cost. We do have fiber optic data standards. People don't implement them on desktop because of cost. Optics are really, really expensive and difficult to get right. And optical cables are not nearly as resilient as copper cables. And for the lengths that we need in homes, for the most part, copper makes way more sense 100% of the time. HDMI, you can get HDMI optic repeaters. They're a couple $100 if you have a run that needs that. They are available. You can absolutely do that. It's just they're too expensive to implement, and there's no practical application or practical benefit to most users.
Well, and also for most, like, in order for HDMI to work the way you expect it to work, it's a two-way connection. So if you're using one of those optical HDMI cables, those are by all the ones I've ever seen are one way, which means that you have some weirdness with the way HDMI then talks to your computer, which is probably fine for what most people do, but you don't want that as your main monitor in your computer, probably.
You don't get HTCP over most of the time because that's an authenticated protocol that requires a handshake.
Yeah.
You don't get a lot of the auto resolution, whatever the protocol is.
The thing where the monitor talks to the video card and tells you what the resolution is.
Refresh. Yeah.
The other one is like SFP is really like fiber to SFP for Ethernet is incredibly common now, and the prices are pretty reasonable even for pre-made cables. So like we are seeing it on networking, but again, it's like the number of SPDIF cables you've killed. How many SPDIF optical cables have I killed over the years? I don't want to talk about it.
A lot.
You put it on, it hits the ground and you step on it and it's done.
Yep.
Interesting idea, though. Yeah. Here's a good question from friend of the show, Sneaky Supreme. What's the difference between EPS and PCI power? Why is it that we cannot have more EPS cables per PSU to power other components that need more juice?
Is EPS the CPU?
Yeah.
EPS is CPU.
Yeah.
The difference in the physical cable is almost nothing. They're the same gauge wire. It's just one has one more power delivery pin. So PCI Express has 3 power delivery pins and 5 grounds. versus, or 5 neutrals, I guess you can call them, versus EPS has 4 live and 4 neutral. The difference in that is actually you can deliver double the power over EPS. It's a 300 watt connection versus 150 watt for PCI Express 8-pin, and 75 watt for the 6-pin variant. It is the direction we absolutely should have gone instead of this 12+4 BS that NVIDIA is forcing down our throat. Because guess what? NVIDIA already used EPS in all of their data center cards. It's a reliable cable, and it's actually a spec that is over-spec'd. That cable, based on that gauge wiring, could actually deliver 600 watts over 8 pins. And still be fine without melting. Versus
Wait, it's built like a brick shit house, is what you're saying.
It's built like a brick shit house. Yeah, that's exactly right. Yes, we should have gone EPS. The infrastructure was already in place. There's no change to any of the pin types or connectors or cable gauges or anything like that. It's simply a standards-based thing. Instead, we got this weird negotiated 12+4 that because the wire is also thinner. It's a thinner gauge wire. You're also flirting with the edge at 600 watts. It's a 600 watt rated cable that can only handle 600 watts. So
I
hate it.
I've seen motherboards, mostly high end ones, that actually have an extra PCIe power connector to the board itself to supply supplemental power over the lanes.
Slot power,
yes.
right?
Well, why couldn't have that been EPS?
Absolutely could have been.
The reason it's not EPS is because your most power supplies only have the 2 EPS cables.
Yeah. Well, but I think I think that's part of the same question. Like, why do we not get more EPS?
Look, this is why we need to kill ATX at the end of the day.
Oh,
thank you, Will.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've been saying that for a while. Like, we need to evolve the PC ATX standard. Graphics cards are 4 slots and weigh 6 pounds now. That was not what the original PCI spec was designed for. I mean, that's back when cards were
there were no cards. There were a lot of not cards in the original PCI spec, right? Like it was it's anyway.
Yeah.
The RAM should go the airflow way. That's all I'm saying. Make the system memory, make the fins point up and down so they're not blocking airflow. That's all I want.
Actually, modern case airflow, thanks to the blow-through design, should now be air intake at the bottom and exhaust at the top.
Yeah,
we shouldn't be continuing to draw in fresh air from the front. That should actually be closed off in most systems for the most efficient airflow, in which case the RAM is in line with airflow path.
Yeah, but anyway.
Yeah.
I feel like NVIDIA made some choices that have really impacted airflow in systems with this generation, especially of the Founders cards. We don't need, we've talked about it here before. We don't need to get into it again. You need a giant exhaust on if you're putting a 5090 Founders, and if you can find one, you need more exhaust than you think.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, here's a question from a brand new friend of the show, Johan. Hello from Finland. Just found the Full Nerd podcast and been binge listening ever since and love it. Wow.
Welcome.
That's awesome.
Ahoy hoy.
Glad to have you. Question. I just built a new computer. Hey, nice.
Woo.
Good job. Enjoy it. Mostly for production, but also for some gaming. Hey, that sounds similar. Went with the Ryzen 9900X and a B650 motherboard. Still waiting with what GPU to choose, so I wonder why. But made the mistake in that the motherboard only has PCIe 4.0. Will I be punished if I get a new PCIe 5.0 GPU?
No. You're fine.
Yep, you're fine.
You can probably run it at 8 lanes and you'll be okay.
Yep.
Well, it depends on what you're doing, but especially for if this is mostly production stuff. Then like
we didn't cross the PCI Express 3.0 X16 mark until the RTX 3090, and that was just by a couple percentage points. And the bandwidth of PCI 4.0 is double that, and we're not even approaching double the bandwidth of a 3090 with modern cards. Yeah. So you're fine.
Yeah.
Even on 8 lanes with PCI 4.0, you're fine on every major graphics card.
Yeah.
Love it. Thank you for being a friend of the show.
Yeah, welcome.
Here's a question from one William Smith. I don't know who this is. Can Jeff give us a lowdown on what's happening with Synology and non-Synology drives going forward? There's an article on PCWorld.com.
So Synology released an update to their Synology NAS operating system, which basically implements a software lock on hard drives. So you can only buy Synology branded disks and install them into a Synology NAS.
Wait, this just happened?
This just happened like a week and a half ago.
Wait, I can't put in my Western Digital Reds?
You can't buy off-the-shelf hard drives. You have to source them from Synology, which Synology, surprise enough, is not a hard drive manufacturer. They're simply whiteboxing drives and flashing custom firmware on them. What? This has been done on the
Hold on, they stick
forever.
a new label on too, Jeff. Don't undersell. They put a new sticker on.
Sometimes,
and they put a custom firmware on. It's two things. It's not just the custom firmware.
Oh no, I need to get rid of my Synology NAS now.
Well, so the old ones are fine.
Oh, okay. I want an old one.
Well, until they are updated, in which the new software does take effect. If you have existing hard drives on a Synology NAS and you update, they will continue to work. There is also a workaround where if you create an array on an old Synology NAS and then move them to a new Synology NAS with the drive lockout, your old array will still work with that. However, it begs the question, if one of your drives fails in your new Synology NAS, can you replace it with an off-the-shelf disk, or will it refuse to repair your NAS?
Well, real quick, somebody in the chat, or a friend of the show, Arcane, says you just cannot use all of the software features
on the old
drives.
Old NAS.
Yeah,
or any drives.
Yeah, and they're locking out features like deduplication and some of their AI features, auto file sort, and all that kind of stuff. Yeah, they're locking out some of those features.
Is a weird one, but the AI crap I'm fine with that.
Yeah. I was about to say, I was like, so is this mostly features that I don't care about anyway?
Yeah,
I care about dedupe, but I mean, it's weird. Like it's a real choice, right? Like,
and why make this choice?
Well, they like money,
security.
No, I think
no. But how are they selling this choice?
It's going to be sold on security and customer assurance and things
like that, marketing
which is always
spin?
BS reasons.
Yeah. Okay.
It's not always BS reasons. It's most always BS reasons.
Well, if 1% of your reason is for security.
Yeah, fair.
Huh.
I mean, look, you might buy a shuck stop drive that you take out of an external cage and slam in your piracy NAS. And that's going to have some bootleg firmware on it that's going to infect your Synology. And it's like this is them wanting to sell drives at a they're selling disposable razors. Like they're selling cheap NASs and selling blades to keep you going. Yeah. And the answer is don't buy Synology NASs after next year.
That sucks. Yep. Okay. Yep. Well, yeah. All right. Well, are you gonna do any sort of coverage on this or no?
I think coverage has already been done. I don't have a NAS to like demo it on, and
we have an article on one PCWorld.com. Who is this from? One Michael Kreider. So if you want to learn more about it, go over there. Last question, because we need to get out of here. I forgot I have a meeting in 15 minutes. Friend of the show, Cause MC asks, any recommendations for a PFSense box?
Ooh.
Well, I have you.
That's from zero to infinity question. There's a lot of follow-up questions I would have. What is your use case? What's your bandwidth? What features are you using? Are you using security?
Do you need to get it future-proof? You have gigabit now. You want to have 10 gigabit later?
Right.
Are you on the full nerd Discord, right?
I don't know that I am.
Oh well, I'll send you an invite. It was Cause MC is active on there, so maybe you can interface with him.
Yeah, that's something that PFSense can run on like an Intel J1900 from 8 years ago, and you can get gigabit through that as long as all you're having it do is routing. Are you using AES, MAC address encryption, blah 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 blah, all the advanced features, to which you need maybe a 14900K to run all of your stuff with dedicated encryption hardware. So,
Wow. Okay. Well, yeah, it sounds like it needs some more follow up. I don't think you're part of our Discord, so I'll get you linked up in there. Okay. Anyway, we got to get out of here. We got to get out of here. We need some food. Yeah, I think you've been grumpy. Yeah. So anyway, check back next week for your fix of PC Talk here on the
what you should do. Check back next week.
Yeah, you should check back next week for your fix of PC Talk here on the Full Nerd, to subscribe to us on the go and listen to us in your ear holes.
Which you should do.
You could use Apple Podcasts, but you should use probably not Spotify.
Deezer?
No, you probably shouldn't use that. I like Pocket Cast. Pocket Cast is my favorite.
I use Overcast on iOS.
Oh, okay.
Pocket Cast is a good cross-platform.
I like Pocket Cast.
I haven't seen Will the Sangre since last time he found motion smoothing enabled on a TV.
Yeah.
I went to an Airbnb a couple of weeks ago, and they had an 85-inch Sony Bravia TV that had 4 different types of motion smoothing turned on. I spent 30 minutes trying to get it to turn off, and when we were watching an old Simpsons, and every time it would pan,
and it was like
chonk, 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 chonk. This is the worst thing I've ever seen.
That sounds fun.
They should have turned that off.
Yeah, well, don't turn us off. We'll turn this off till next week, I guess, or whatever. Anyway, if you're on one of the services, leave a review, star rating, thumbs up, high five,
heart,
whatever you can.
Yeah.
Give us a comment. I haven't read the comments in a while.
They're fine.
Maybe I shouldn't. We'll see. Usually the podcast comments are pretty good. So thank you. Leave a comment. Every time you do, Jeff gets to sell another OpenVirro solution. There you go.
It's thermal.
You
can probe things front and back.
Probe things.
Front and back. Yeah.
Jeff, where can the fine folks on the internet see you probing things?
You can see me probing things. If you're interested in the rack mount temperature sensors, this is called the OpenVirro Axe. You can find it at openvirro.com, OPENVIRO. We have a crowd supply going right now. We actually just crossed our threshold earlier today, so we are fully funded and well on our way, although... Boy, I'd love to see that number double or triple, because then I could actually make some money on it instead of just shipping product and calling it 6 months of...
Yeah. Nice.
It's a 6-month learning process.
Even.
Yeah,
exactly.
It's learning. The
So
more you
yes,
buy, the more
please,
safe.
Yeah, please go buy those. I would very much appreciate it. But you can find me on youtube.com/craftcomputing. And if you like this podcast, you might like mine, Talking Heads. We do that every Wednesday at 6 p.m. Pacific. In fact, both of you were on in the last month.
We've both been there.
You see some familiar faces on there.
Nerds.
Yeah.
Well, thank you,
Nerds.
Jeff. Glad to have you on. Thank you for coming on last minute as well. Always appreciate it. Always be drinking.
Good to see you, man.
We'll always be testing. Thank you for joining us.
Say here at PCWorld. Always be testing.
Always be building a brick shit house.
Yes.
And I want to thank you, the listener, for showing up. You're awesome. And definitely thank Alex, because he's been controlling the verticals and horizontals like a champ. And he's going to take us out of here. So thank you.
Yes.
Get us out of here. Bye.
All right. Thanks for watching, everybody. We really appreciate it. Be nice to each other out there, and we'll see you on the next one.
Bam! Oh, that music's so good.
It is. It hits
Enjoy it while you
right?
can. Yeah, enjoy it while you can.
Jeremy Willis coming here to kick our asses.
Yeah, I should have him on. Yell this.